That's when my mum said her names. And boy, did all the stories with slanderous claims. But it's over and done with. It's over and done with. It's over and done with. It's over and done with.
Welcome to another episode of Axe to Grind, the hardcore podcast.
What happens with Pat's out here?
I'm Bob.
I'm Tom.
And with us today, our friend
Jules.
Very cool episode. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, absolutely.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here. In my mother's kitchen.
In his mother's kitchen here in beautiful New Jersey.
Yes.
We can look across at the New York skyline, not too far from here. Before we get into the normal chit chat and fun stuff, I want to thank our sponsors, Death Wish Inc., Death Wish, lifelong friends and supporters. Got a bunch of new records out, Tom.
Super Unison, Gouge Away,
Cult Leader.
Cult Leader is
That Cult Leader, everybody talking about.
Yeah,
it.
people love it.
So that's our recommendation this week.
Cult Leader.
Go get the Cult Leader record. And you know what? Go to deathwishinc.com and enter the promo code.
Axe to Grind.
And you want to...
Spell it out. We miss Pat for those. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but he
I don't
tries
miss
to get
Pat.
too clever with it.
No,
Like,
sure, and he fucks up
you might
everything.
want to.
Yeah.
So go to there, Axe to Grind, save 10%. Get that. We're actually going to do some gift guide, I think.
Oh,
I was
okay.
talking about this. I think that hardcore kids, and by kids I mean people into hardcore,
Right. And
regardless
any
of your age,
age. Right.
have some issues with buying gifts for people, both for themselves or other people interested. So we're going to do a little guide. Don't buy the Cult Leader record for your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother.
Right.
But maybe buy it for you. That's cool.
You can get, self-care.
Self-care.
Yeah.
So thank you to Deathwish and to our other sponsor, Triple B Records.
BBB.limitedrun.com. That was the first time I've ever had to say it, and I got it
Yeah,
out
there
of
you go.
one fell swoop.
You got it. Enter the promo code Axe to Grind. Spell it out. I'm solely thunder.
Yeah, it's fine. It's cool.
10% off everything. By the time you hear this, America's Hardcore Fest is over. That was a fun time.
That was awesome. That happened this past weekend.
That show was wonderful. You know what? I'm going to tell you to buy. The Hulu 7-inch is still probably available.
Yeah.
Get that. And if you haven't heard the Warfare record, did you hear any of that yet?
I haven't heard that yet.
Real rough, our boy, not rough in a bad way. Sounds like
It's
sounds
not
a little
straight
negative
ahead?
approach,
Oh,
a little
okay.
straight ahead.
Okay.
And it's cross country band. You got L.A. and Boston.
Is Justice in it?
Justice is in it. Yeah.
What's he doing?
Bass, you know.
Oh, he's not.
Come
Yeah.
on. Not singing. Sam
Bass.
is singing. Yeah, bass.
Got it. Right.
Like how Pat plays bass.
Sure.
Okay.
Right. Of course.
So go to triplebrecords.limitedrun.com. Enter the promo code Axe to Grind. Save 10%. Boom, boom, boom. Jules, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm a little freaked out.
Don't worry. You'll get used to it in a little bit.
No, but here's the thing. It's like, I'm wrapping my brain around that hardcore has a talk radio show.
I know.
It's kind of a mind blowing thing for me.
I know. It's weird. Welcome, though. It's cool.
We're trying to make it like sports
I
radio.
I embrace the weird.
We got, that's the way I try to live my life. Early on, someone said to us, shout out Taylor Madison, I get it. It's like sports radio, like The Fan or something.
Right, for punk and hardcore.
For punk and hardcore.
And argue over
And
things.
hopefully, like the minutia, and hopefully we don't have, Bobby from the Bronx calling in to ask us dumb questions.
We
But
do get the same people, though. We do
Oh,
have,
we do.
our regulars, so.
thank you to the regulars.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Thank you to everybody who supports us via Patreon, all that stuff. Jules, you're here for a reason today.
I am.
There's some show happening in Philadelphia in February.
Yes. Well, to make a long story a little bit longer.
Please.
So I was in two bands back in the day, Side by Side and Alone in a Crowd. Alone in a Crowd had 5 members to it, and one of them was Howie Wallen. Howie, unfortunately for the last 2 years, has been dealing with a tumor that's been growing in his head. And it kind of in a really kind of badly ironic way, it's in his ear, So for a musician to have, that. Anyway, he's already had one surgery, which was not certainly what I would consider successful.
Right.
And it looks like he's going to have to go in and get another one. But the surgery left him deaf in his right ear. And it's a tumor that's pressing on nerves that go to his brain. So he's got, balance problems and things like that. It's a real debilitating kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not in imminent peril.
Right.
But this isn't something you can let keep going.
Sure.
No,
right?
this is a huge impediment to living.
Yeah,
living
and it eventually is fatal.
Yeah.
I
Sure,
mean, that's
absolutely. Of course,
the
of course.
tumor outgrows the space that's available
Right.
for it.
Right.
So anyway, so what happened was I was actually in an airport, and I get a call from Lars Weiss, who's the guitarist, and I hadn't talked to him in forever.
Right.
Anyway, and he let me know that Howie's going through a bad time, and apparently Carl
Yeah.
from Raw Deal and
Right.
also played in Alone in a Crowd, Killing Time.
Yep.
He was like, he basically rallied the rest of the band.
Yeah.
And so Lars was essentially, that was the call.
He was the mouthpiece to you.
Yeah, that was the call saying, hey, I got the band back together. Would you do a show? And so, yeah, we're going to do a benefit show February 16th at the Unitarian Church in Philadelphia.
A great venue. Honestly, really,
yeah,
it's a good place.
It's a hall show, man. It's like old school
Absolutely.
DIY hardcore stuff, which is awesome. And I believe we have 8 bands on the bill now.
and I think Tom has the full lineup. You want to read that to
Yeah,
us?
you want me to read it off?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
We have Nowhere Roads, Search, Letdown from Philadelphia, Breakaway, Maximum Penalty, my buddy Joe Affey, Pagan Babies, which I would imagine
Really?
might have come from you guys, right? I mean, is that
I'll talk about
Okay, cool.
that in a second.
Terror, and then headlining is Alone in the Crowd?
Yeah. Well, so, and this is like part of the, like when I said I'm a little freaked out
Right.
here,
Yes.
is that I haven't played on a hardcore stage in 30 years.
Yes.
So
Right.
So to be getting the band back together is a little wacky.
It's kind of
Daunting.
daunting, right?
Yeah.
It's daunting. And I also feel like I'm kind of eating a little crow too, because I used to say all the time that there's nothing more or there's nothing less hardcore than a 50-year-old lawyer singing songs that he wrote when he was 16. You know,
Right.
but this one is different, and it's different because what I've seen just by us reaching out with this is that this is going to be a really special show.
Yeah.
Because first of all, Howie has gotten contacted by like everybody and his brother, and it's meant a lot to him.
Right.
And I mean, already it seems like half of New Jersey is doing a road trip to come down for that
Oh,
show.
it'd be huge.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be all of like Howie's old friends, my
Right.
old friends that I
Yeah.
haven't seen in forever.
Right.
And so it's really gonna be. It's not gonna be us playing a random show in Philly. It's
Yeah.
gonna be like it used to be for
Right,
me,
sure.
which is I knew everybody at the show.
Absolutely. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a very special environment for that. Some of the bands you mentioned too,
Right.
and I don't know some of the newer bands,
Sure.
Fine.
but it's kind of a cool lineup.
Absolutely.
First of all, you've got Maximum Penalty, who was a contemporary
Right.
of Alone in a Crowd. The only
Right.
thing is they kept going.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you have apparently Breakaway. I think they're from Richmond.
They are, yeah.
Apparently they're stopping.
Yeah,
They're-
yeah.
and-
This is
and-
one of their last shows in
and
the
so
Northeast.
Joe, the promoter, kind of talked them into playing a last show.
Yeah.
And so they'll be playing. So that's kind of a special thing. And then Letdown. My understanding is that they're not together
No.
anymore.
No.
So they're getting back together.
Right.
do this,
Uh,
yeah.
to
For an
do-
opportunity to play with you guys and help out.
Yeah,
In all reality.
that's
and
exactly right.
awesome,
And then
you know?
I can't. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. I mean,
Sure.
Tara is coming from California to do this for Howie.
Am I
which-
right? And I don't know the guy. I think you said it. The dude from Terra has an Alone in a Crowd
Yeah, Vogue,
tattoo.
the singer has an Alone in the Crowd
Okay,
tattoo.
now,
Yes.
so can I ask a question?
Of
Absolutely.
course.
What does an Alone in a Crowd tattoo look like?
What
I
does
think
that
it's a
mean?
quote.
Yeah. Is it a quote?
I think
might
it
be-
says when tigers fight. Right?
Yes, I
Right?
think so.
Oh no shit!
Yeah.
Yeah, is that wild?
And
I'm
no,
allowed
no,
to
you
say
can
that?
curse as much
All
as you
right,
want.
yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I
It's
mean,
wild.
speaking on that and like kind of just jumping off that,
Yeah.
there are a ton of bands that have been named after your song.
There's a band named When Tigers Fight.
I've heard that. I've heard that.
There's a band called Backfire.
I mean, you can go
There's
through the entire side by side.
That's serious. I mean, like literally, there's a million bands named after.
I heard.
Your stuff.
What did someone tell me? God, the song that we stopped playing as side by side, "Violence to Fade."
There's also a band called
yeah.
Violence to Fade that is still current.
A friend
They're
of mine.
still current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they just broke up. But, they're from
but like
Mass,
in the
yeah.
last year or so.
That's current to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they put an LP out like last year. Wild.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
My friend said there is a band named Good Clean Fun after the Good Clean Fun song. They're not very good.
They're
but
more of a
but they're
like Murphy's Law, but not funny.
yeah.
Right.
Well,
So that's not
you
your
know,
fault.
side by side had a little bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah.
We had the guys that wanted to be, super straight edge, serious.
Right.
You had Billy, who had done all of that, been there, done that with the old DC scene.
Yep.
Right.
And he was 26 years old, which was like ancient.
Right.
to
It was an old
us.
man. Oh, yeah. Right. Of course. Yeah. At that time. Yeah.
And and he was like, "Oh my God, I can't be so serious." And so, Good Clean Fun was kind of like that was like Billy's.
That was his
thing.
pushback.
Billy's
to everyone else.
pushback
Amazing.
on this, these 15, 16-year-old kids who are like,
Jumping around.
yeah. So, I don't even know where to go with that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just something that I feel like you should know, the impact that your stuff has had. You know what I mean? It's probably hard for you to, like, almost sort of hard to hear that. Like, a very popular, famous, I would say famous, Philly hardcore band covered Is Anybody There?
Oh, a bunch of bands.
Turmoil.
Yeah. Turmoil.
No, but Turmoil
Champion.
recorded that. And, like, that was, like, that's, like, their hit
Oh,
song.
that's right.
Well, I cannot tell a lie. When this all started happening
Sure.
and people started emailing me and calling me and,
Right.
and saying crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
I've gone online and there's like a ton of videos, like from around the world of cover songs. I mean, I'm flattered and just like absolutely shocked that
Right.
anybody gave a damn.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
So that's kind of when we spoke on the phone to talk about this very happening. One of the things that was both endearing and kind of interesting was that you really didn't have a sense for the relevance of either Side by Side or Alone in a Crowd to that level, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree.
And we'll get into all that, but also doing the show. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm starting to remember why I probably didn't stick around because certainly with Alone in a Crowd, I was kind of left being the real engine.
Yeah,
right.
And trying to keep a band together, trying to book practices, trying to book shows, trying to get to shows,
Right.
dealing with, the venues that existed back then.
Sure.
It was, honestly, kudos to like Sammy
Uh-huh.
Yep.
in Side by Side
Yeah.
because he was like 13 years old and he was the
Like
one
running
that
the
was
ship.
moving
Really?
and shaking. He kept
Amazing.
he kept track of the money and
Right.
and all of that stuff.
Right. Wow.
So I mean he was driven to a level that I was not.
Right. Sure.
So this show, 8 bands in another city.
Yeah.
Everybody now kind of, in
Spread
different
apart, yeah.
parts
Yeah,
of the
right,
world.
sure.
So, just trying to practice to get ready for this show is like, it requires planes and things like
Sure.
that. So, I mean, it's been a logistical. Now, but here's the thing. Hello, Internet. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
there's this, huge platform to get the word out. I mean,
Yes.
and it's instantaneous. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember when we tried because, God, it was so long ago. Ray Bees came to me and said, "Hey, I've got a slot, the Pyramid Club lined up for a matinee."
Yeah.
But we got like 2 days advance notice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was us and a Side by Side and Altercation.
Right.
Yeah.
And we got maybe 50 to 70 people in there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because neither one of us at the time were headlining bands.
Right.
And getting the word out was hard.
Right. There was actual paper flyers that you had to
paper
bring
flyers.
some
People had to
records or-
call
yeah.
each other.
Yeah,
You
right,
know,
right.
we might have gotten a plug on WNYU. I can't remember.
Right.
But now you push a button and it's like
Right, the entire world knows about it.
thousands of people know about
Right.
it.
Yeah.
It's funny to talk about that. I wasn't there for it, but in the late 80s, there was a New York hardcore hotline, which was 1-800-OPEC-SID, and we'd be advertising zines. And I know this is a funny thing, but the dudes from Jersey who were older were like, yeah, you'd call this, and somebody kind of managed it. And explaining that to people, how different it is now, and it was a long time ago, but like it's something I remember being like, what?
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, who thought of that? That's a pretty
Ingenious.
pretty ballsy idea. A
Here's your
hardcore
show
hotline.
listings. Yeah, and it would basically be a voicemail.
And how many
like
people
answering
would
machine.
actually call? Though? I mean,
probably more than we. Yeah, I mean,
Who knows? You know what I mean? Because it's hard to explain the scope, because how many people were there? More people involved in hardcore then or now? You have to assume more now, but that's only because of visibility. You know what I mean? Like you can see what it is.
and access.
It
yeah.
seems bigger to me,
Yeah.
just from what I've seen, and I'm
Right.
really from the outside looking
That's-
back in. But the fact that you have all of these bands that are still playing out, I would say there's more now because they're still here. They didn't.
Yes.
It's
Sure.
not like the recycling. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right,
Like the
right.
next generation takes over or
Yeah.
whatever. They're still here.
Yeah, some
right.
folks this. Yeah.
So one of the things, because we're going to dive into a lot of talking about things and this, that, and the other. There's some logistics we got to take care of for this show. You were telling us that the tickets are selling well. It seems like it's going well.
We're
If you
about
have-
75%
so
sold out.
and
Fantastic.
we're recording this a couple weeks before it's going to air. So if you're hearing this and there's still tickets available, get your ticket now because it's going to go.
Yeah.
We are also looking to help, and this is Axe to Grind, get a couple sponsors to help with some of the incidental costs that come along with this, because the goal of the promoter, the goal of you guys in the band, is to provide as much money to Howie as possible. And as you were kind of telling us before we started recording, there's some costs that you guys didn't anticipate coming up.
Well, I don't know if we didn't anticipate them, but they're there.
Yes.
Right.
And so let me just kind of give you an idea of like
Please.
what my thought is on this. Is that what we're doing is this is a one-time show. This is an event. We're going to have, for example, like a show T-shirt.
Yep.
That's gonna be a limited run thing
Sure.
for those that come.
Right.
If you don't have a ticket,
Then
you're
you're
not buying
SOL.
a T-shirt.
Yeah.
For example, I fully intend almost like a tour shirt. We're going to have all the band names on it.
Right.
And you know what? If someone wants, a sponsor wants to come and help us out,
Right.
defraying costs, for example, of, we've got bands coming from across the country.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, where are they staying? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I hate, they're all willing to do it for free,
Yeah.
but to the extent we can defray those
Some of the
kinds of
costs.
costs,
That's rad.
to the extent we can defray the cost of the sound engineer or security, anyone that would want to help, and it doesn't have to be like a huge amount of money. We're doing this so lean.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a testament to the way you guys are doing it. This is hardcore,
Right.
It's one of the things that, as you were describing what Howie's going through, it's one of the beautiful things about hardcore when you get to the root of it is this idea that it is a community that is working within itself to support those inside of it. And so there's the one side where Howie's actually receiving support from people he probably hasn't talked to in a while who are coming out of the woodwork, and how much that helps a person just hearing that,
And recovery and all that stuff. Yeah.
and two, then an actual financial help. So our ask is, if somebody who's hearing the sound of my voice would like to help with that, please reach out to us, axegrindpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be visible on Twitter, all the social. Reach out to us and we'll help coordinate that for you guys. We're excited.
All right,
So-
and you'll definitely get certainly shout outs, recognition at the
Oh, yeah.
show, and if we have banners or whatever, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rad.
We'll get. Yeah.
All right, so we're talking about the show. We've only done one of these shows before, one Alone in a Crowd show. This is going to be number 2.
yeah. Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah.
It's a little freaky.
So how did that happen? Only one.
Only one
Alone,
back in the
yeah.
day. How did that happen? Well, I mean, it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
So side by side, it's the oldest story in the world.
Right.
Side by side broke up. Right.
You still had some things to say?
I didn't know I did. I thought I was walking away from it at that point.
Yeah.
And that was mainly because of at that time, and I'm sure I'm succumbing to nostalgia as I say this.
Right.
But you got to understand that 1986, 87 was like a really. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought it was just that's how it was.
Yeah.
But it was a very special time. Right. I mean, the scene was as kind of peaceful and tight as I think it ever had been, except maybe when it was really small back when the original Hards, started it.
15
like
people
A7.
in A7. Right.
Yeah. But it was much larger now. You had your, bands that had gone national, AF,
Cro-Mags,
well, the Cro-Mags were almost like rock stars at that point because they were the only band I knew that had a CD.
Right.
In '86,
Yeah,
right?
I didn't even have a machine to play that on.
Right.
They had
Yeah,
Right.
but I'm just telling you that different bands from completely different ideological kind of corners.
Sure.
I mean, when you think of, YDL playing with Side by Side, playing with Token Entry, playing, it was just like a really inclusive time.
Yes.
Right.
Flash forward till maybe the end of 87, 88,
No.
it wasn't like that anymore. It wasn't like that anymore.
What changed?
The scene fractured,
Yeah.
and everyone kind of went to their corners.
Right.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Because remember there was some lack of acceptance of like the youth crew from the old New York folks.
Right.
So that kind of animosity, I think, kind of caused the whole schism thing and all of that.
Sure.
I mean, there's a reason that Alex named it Schism. I
Right.
mean, I mean that's almost like an intentional. Breaking apart, right?
It's like hearing. It's like, all right, we're gonna flash a light on this and say, "Yep, all right, this is what it is."
Yeah.
Right, and then,
we're over here, and it's a schism.
and then Warzone. Warzone. I don't know that they ever get the recognition, or Ray gets the recognition. Maybe he does, but I don't know if that's because people,
He's like
with his death,
mythologized.
he's been not deified, but
there's a mythology to him,
yeah.
no,
Right,
for sure.
right.
And I think largely it might be deserved. So please go ahead.
well, first of all, it's 100% deserved.
Yeah,
I can talk about Rabies and the positive things that he did for a 14-year-old kid in New York City, i.e. me.
Right.
I mean, please do, because we had to. It's 2018, right? So Rabies is
Oh dear.
Rabies passed in '97. Right?
Yes. Yep.
So that's 21 years ago. There's a lot of people. I know. But there's a lot of talk because there's a lot of people who are like Warzone. That's it. They're one of the bands.
Right.
But then there's younger people who are like, well, I listen to it and it's like, fine. I don't, whatever. Why do people? And so we kind of went in and I tried to explain that Warzone's music was great. And I could see if you like different kind of stuff, maybe you're more into more punk or you're into something that's much, much harder. Okay. Like sound can be really subjective. What Warzone always meant to me, and I tried to explain this, you probably will be able to put it even better, is that what he was that inclusive guy. He, even till his last days, he was the guy who was going to every kind of show and was kind to young people. And when people would write him letters, he would write them letters back.
Yeah. Well, Ray, God, I almost don't even know where to start, but I'll just start as best I can.
Absolutely.
So Ray, he embraced kind of positivity, and so did Todd Youth, R.I.P.
Yep.
And they were instrumental in keeping youth of today in New York. Like without Ray and Warzone, youth of today, I think, would have had a much harder time in New York City.
Right. So he sort of like shepherded them, like kind of protected
yeah,
them.
I mean,
almost,
well,
like,
AF did too. And,
Sure.
and listen, Roger
Right.
and Vinny. See, okay,
Right.
Roger, Vinny, and Ray are all kind of cut from the same cloth. They were not. They would walk around and hang out with the young kids.
Right.
They didn't look down their nose at them. They
Right.
didn't.
No
You know.
New Jack. No this.
No,
right. Sure.
no. And I'll tell you the other thing about Warzone, where I don't even know what their later stuff sounded like. To be honest, after my favorite lineup, and Luke is like I consider him a good old friend.
Yeah.
But after the original lineup on the Street Kids demo
Right.
Yeah.
went away,
That was.
something was
It's
lost.
different, right?
Something
Sure.
was lost. But that's what I would say, and it's online. You can get it.
Yeah.
The Street Kids demo
Yeah.
changed my life. Like everyone has that band or that show that changed
Absolutely.
their lives. That I played that tape, and it was a tape of a tape of a tape. So
Right.
it was like this horrible fidelity.
Right.
Yeah. It might be the best way to listen to New
Yeah.
York hardcore, to be honest.
Yeah, but it was a recording. It was like a live. It wasn't. It was a live recording,
Right.
in a studio, and it was dedicated to Dwayne at Some Records. Which, does anyone know what happened
Yes.
to him? Okay, I'm going to ask you
We're
about that
talking about
later.
it later.
Yeah. Anyway,
He is healthy and doing well, and I'll tell you more about it.
that's
after.
awesome. Okay, I'm really glad because that's a guy that nobody seems to talk about anymore, and
Right.
he was a big deal.
Huge.
Back
He was
in
the guy
day.
who made
Right.
tapes for everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, so they dedicate that set to Dwayne.
Right.
And Todd Youth is playing, Batmite's playing, I think Tito's playing,
Yeah.
and I think it's Charlie Ultraviolence on the drums.
Yes.
And if I got any of that wrong, I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
But the thing about Warzone 2, that lineup anyway, is they really had their own sound. They were more rock and roll
Yep.
based. They were not metal really
No.
at all.
Right.
No, but they had rock leads.
They had rock stuff. I mean, I don't know how well they really could sing, but they kind of
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were not about just
Bellowing and yelling.
yeah,
Right.
Not
yeah, it
just
wasn't all
guttural,
about
yeah.
no nothing but screaming.
Yeah.
And they were even almost a little bit melodic.
Yep.
But they were, I mean, look at them. They were these freaking crazy skinhead tattooed
Yeah.
Street
guys,
kid, yeah. Right.
And anyway, but Ray, he meant what he sang, and that's something that there was
Right.
every lyric that he put in was what he really thought.
He was living and.
And he was a good guy. He's a big guy.
Yep.
I don't know if people realize how kind of tall and just generally big
Yeah.
he was. But I've got some anecdotes. The funny thing is that so Ray, when I don't know, we got into a funk or whatever.
Sure.
Like he was kind of taking care of me for a while, but then he was really about Warzone, and he
Yeah.
didn't deal with me
Right.
anymore. And when I say Warzone, I mean the new lineups.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Like
Later on.
when I think what was it, Altercation was cannibalized for
Warzone.
for Warzone,
Right.
Yeah.
which effectively, in my view, ended both bands.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know where I ran into Ray years later, and I was actually working on a boat in New York Harbor,
Yeah.
and he found out I was working on a boat, and that's when he started telling me all about his time in the Navy, and he said that he loved St. Thomas. And that his whole thing is that what he wants to do is just like go to St. Thomas and live
retire.
out, retire in St. Thomas. So he
Wow.
wanted to learn how to sail sailboats. And so I was working on a sailboat. And I said, well, they actually take volunteers. Why don't you come down? So rabies, okay, without eyebrow, shaved off eyebrows, and freaking the crazy moshing skinhead tattoo, and the lion on the other side, and the iron crosses, and
Doc Martens and everything,
yeah,
right.
he comes down, And the captain took one look at him and was just like, what
Would you
is
just bring
this? And the passengers are all kind of like looking at this guy,
Who's kind of a bigger guy and like,
Yeah.
bigger, intimidating guy.
intimidating.
But anyway, he had so much fun,
That's
amazing.
and so I was, and here's the other thing is there were women crew
Yeah.
on board, and I don't know about you guys, I have real trouble telling what men are attractive
Yeah,
or
sure,
not.
sure.
And to me, he always sort of looked like that guy from The Hills Have Eyes.
a little bit,
I mean,
yeah.
he was,
He's a
But
pretty
he wouldn't be one of,
scary-looking-
he certainly wouldn't be defined as attractive by standards.
by
right.
my
yeah, yeah,
standards
right, sure, sure.
anyway.
Yeah.
But I guess what do I know?
How do you know, right?
But I'll tell you, he was a charmer. Mm-hmm. Girls loved that guy.
It explains the Warzone women.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about non-hardcore
like
women.
civilians that are
Yeah, and I'm just like, how do you
charismatic.
How do you
That's
do
all
it?
you
He
need, I
was,
guess. Yeah.
and he was funny and self-effacing.
Yeah.
And just a cool guy. And I remember him turning to me because I think, like I said, the captain didn't like him. From all the tattoos and stuff. And the captain yelled at him for something. And he came up to me. He goes, "Why is the captain being such a meanie?"
I mean, I think it's interesting though because I think in the years since Ray has passed, he's become an icon
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
absolutely.
But people don't know like that side of him.
No.
You'll go when you're at that show in February, you'll be like, people ape his style of dress.
Oh, sure.
So people are doing
In
what he
2018.
did. He might have done it just because, like, I have this wise hat because this is the hat I have. People will seek that out because they want to dress like him.
yeah. If you want, so we were talking about the fashion ups and downs of Champion clothing.
Yeah.
But the Wise hat, his Wise hat, is like a collectible thing. Like he had a Wise potato chips
And like some
hat
famous photo
that
of
he
him.
must have got
For free.
like off the street,
bodega or something,
a
yeah.
thrift store, wherever. And that's like a highly desirable item.
Yeah.
People wearing the chains like with the lock on it after him. It's incredible how much, but I think people that may not have known him, I mean, I got to meet him just because I'm older, but like people that knew him like you knew him,
Yeah.
I think people lose that. But I feel like, guys like you, even Ray Cappo would bring
Yeah,
it up and be
sure.
like, I don't think you realize how much that guy kind of looked out for, not the kids that are living on the Lower East Side or people
Anybody.
that are actually
Anybody who's coming
from
around.
Connecticut, coming from Long Island or whatever, and he kind of...
Well, I can say, one thing with relative certainty is without Ray B's and without Warzone, we don't even have this. We
Yeah.
wouldn't be sitting here.
Sure.
Right now.
Really?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's that impactful. It was
Wow.
a big, big deal back then.
So you got that young, the Street Kids demo?
I'm sorry.
The Street
You were
Kids
young when
demo.
you
You
got
got the tape. The Street
Yeah, I
Kids.
was like 14 years old, 15 years old, maybe.
How did you come into stuff? Like, how did you find hardcore? Did it find you?
Well,
And like, and here's the thing: most of the people who get into hardcore, there's a reason they do. What was it that got you into it?
well, I mean, I think it's probably the same answer for everybody. Maybe
Very similar.
voiced differently,
Variations
but
on
it's
the
the same thing. Which is, and I said this in a written interview like 7 years ago
With Double
or
Cross,
something.
yeah,
Yes,
which
yeah.
people should track down if they can.
Yeah, that was a pretty thorough one. But basically, I considered the mid '80s to be kind of a musical wasteland.
Yes.
There was nothing for me.
Yeah.
You guys are sitting in the house that I grew up in when I was
Yes.
in side by side and alone in the
Right.
crowd, right?
Yeah.
So on the corner here, which is like the ATMs, drive-through ATMs. Now that used to be a gas station.
Okay.
So it's like literally, there's one house and then a gas station next to my house. If I were to describe this neighborhood to you, which I probably ought to,
Yeah, please.
you guys would be rolling in laughter because
Yeah.
it's absolutely an insane place that I lived. But what would happen is the kids from this neighborhood's called the Shades because the Palisades are here,
Yeah.
and when
Okay.
the sun goes down, we're in shade.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all the kids back there were like they'd get a bag of weed, a boom box, a 6-pack of beer, and every weekend they'd be there listening to the usual Led Zeppelin, Jim Morrison,
Pink
and
Floyd,
the Doors,
yeah.
Right.
Pink Floyd, all bands that either had dead people in them or you couldn't see
Right.
anymore. And that's it. That was life. That was, that. And then if you looked at the top 40 stuff, it was like Wham.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I still kind of shiver
Thinking about that.
about the
makes it
Wham
pop-
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone being into that all of a sudden.
Right.
I was like, what is going on? So where did I get introduced to this other stuff? Well, I went to school in Brooklyn for a
Yep.
while, and I went to school with Luke
Oh, okay.
from the Gorilla Biscuits
Yeah.
and Warzone.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? He really got into it, like I think starting in '84
Yeah.
or so.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know if you guys know what Luke looked like, but he always looked way younger than he
you are.
actually
Right.
was. But he was still, in '84 he was 13.
Yeah.
Right. But he
Right.
probably was 10.
Right, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah. So he would like go through these crazy efforts to actually get into CBs to see the shows and stuff like that.
Right.
But he did. He saw
Yeah.
lots of stuff.
Right.
And what happened was that he kind of was the prophet.
Yeah.
Right, he
Right.
came back and gave the word to the people. Right, so for instance, Eric
Yeah.
was in a class above us at the same school.
Right.
And Eric was a pretty dedicated guitarist.
Yeah.
But he was at that time more into the older punk stuff. I mean,
Right.
we still listened to. He turned me on to a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
But it was Luke was the guy that kind of introduced us to the whole straight edge thing,
Yeah.
like the new straight edge
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
we all knew Minor Threat and,
Right,
and stuff
right.
like that. So Youth of Today and what have you.
Yeah.
Now I got kicked out of that school and ended up going to school
Here. Okay.
But somewhere along the line, I took all that punk rock stuff, hardcore stuff with me, and I kept in touch with those guys.
Yeah.
And we eventually, Luke put me and Eric back together again.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And because Billy was the first member of Side by Side, I think Eric was the second.
Okay. Wow. That's right.
And I was 15 years old when we started. I may have even been 14. I can't remember. I can't remember now. But and then we played Side by Side. Played our first show on my 16th birthday. It was the first time that I could quote unquote legally get
right.
into CBs. Was I got to play
That's incredible.
And so you didn't play too many shows at Side by Side.
10 maybe
I know.
10 at the most. I
Yeah.
think it was.
Did you even play outside of New York?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
We-
the Anthrax.
We
right.
played the Anthrax twice, I want to say.
Did you ever even play New Jersey? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
No, because I feel like the flyers for pretty much every side by side and
Oh yeah, you can see them.
you can
still.
find
Yeah,
they
yeah.
exist. There's like archives of all of these things.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like
to
the
me.
YDL show you were talking about. I thought you were going to your phone to pick.
Oh, I have
that
the
flyer
flyer, yeah.
exists,
Yeah.
and you can. It's the skinhead kind of screen. Like,
I probably have all the flyers. I'll just make you some copies.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
wild.
I some of these guys, I think Sammy, for example, he's a very meticulous human being, and he was at a young age. You should have
Right.
seen his room. It was like squared away.
Right. As
you know,
a 13-year-old.
yeah, as a
You're right.
13-year-old. I mean, he was very neat, and I think he got. He was kind of a collect. Like
He
he
kinda kept it-
collected stuff. You know, I didn't. I didn't even think about that. Keep a flyer. I mean,
Right,
it's a
right.
freaking
Yeah,
Xerox
this was the show
flyer
going- show going
that
on,
somebody, you know,
a piece of paper, right.
right. And a lot of times it's got like some picture that was like put on there and Xerox.
Right,
right.
You know, I'm like, whatever. Now
Yeah.
I understand that like it's a big deal.
Yeah, people are archiving this now.
Set lists. People kept set lists. You know, I'm
Right.
like, you
Yeah,
know,
I forgot it. Yeah, it's up there.
So it's an interesting thing to talk about because, like, getting through this. So you do Side by Side, it falls apart. Whatever. You guys stopped doing it after 10 something shows, and you did Alone in a Crowd, and you did one show
Right, which I think is where we started with all of this, and I
Yes.
never answered your question.
It's okay.
I don't think.
No, that's why I was
That's how
circling
we
us
do it.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we pros do it.
Talk radio.
So how did Side by Side stopped, and you kind of thought like, I'm good. Like you didn't
the
think you were
band
going to do
idea.
another band.
Yeah, well, it was.
Oh, and we kind of what got us. We started talking. You talked about how 86, 87 was a special
Right.
time.
Okay. So now we've got the national news with the Nazi skinhead thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that just put a huge kind of dampener on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't us.
No. Yeah.
Sure.
But now everyone was looking at us
And
like
assuming,
that.
sure.
Right.
But yeah, you can. Yeah, if you're just going on face value, a book, you're like,
Right.
oh, that's
Look at-
that.
look at-
looks the same.
Yeah,
Right,
look at
right.
all of Warzone.
Yeah,
I mean,
everybody's got
exactly.
shaved heads.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Who's got
So-
the Iron Cross? And yeah.
So that was a big problem. But it was that internal kind of everyone kind of forming their cliques or sticking with their cliques.
Yeah.
And now the Bills were just certain types of bands together.
Yeah.
A lot of bands were more concerned with touring than keeping a scene in New York going.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is only natural, I guess, for a band to want to, branch out.
Sure.
But that kind of leaves a
A
hole.
void at home. Yeah.
Right.
And so that it really wasn't the scene I wanted to be a part of anymore. And then what happened? Well, I mean, what happened was, and we can go down there if you want.
Yeah.
But see, okay, so
Probably.
my house, and now I'm going to talk about my house.
Please.
But,
This is the kind of podcast we do.
all
We'll talk
right.
about it.
So I want you to look around. You will notice there is not a square corner anywhere in this house. Look at that door right there.
Yep.
I mean,
Wow.
this is
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
It's
And
crook.
in fact, I hope you guys didn't get vertigo because the floors aren't level either. I can
Right.
roll a coin from one end of the place to the other.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
drunks that built this house back in the early part of the 20th century.
right.
Yeah.
Didn't have a level.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, all the
didn't
door jambs
care.
are at different heights.
In fact, if we tore this place apart, you'd probably find the frames of ships and stuff, like old boards and stuff.
Yeah,
I honestly, this was kind of a shanty town.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, but my parents have since kind of renovated, but the bedrooms upstairs are railroad.
Okay.
So in order to get to my bedroom, I had to walk through my parents' bedroom, which when you're a 15, 16-year-old hardcore kid, this is not
That's not
going to
gonna
work.
work, right.
So I lived in the basement. And it's not exactly set up for that
furnished
down
basement,
there.
you're right.
Yeah. And in fact, when my parents bought, this was the first house they bought together. We had been renters
Sure.
until I was about like 15, 16,
Right.
something like that. And so I had Billy and Luke and I think Eric and maybe some other folks come over across the river to Jersey.
Come to your house.
And we had like a big bed sheet, and Billy drew this like awesome kind of hardcore.
Yeah.
It was like a rat, anthropomorphic rat, because when we first moved in the house there were rats down there. So we named it the Rat's Nest.
Amazing.
And Billy drew this this cool kind of hardcore rat,
Right.
and Luke was he was a writer, so he was tagging up on it. Everyone
Yeah.
everyone added something,
Right,
like
right.
spray paint and
Sure.
whatever, and we hung that up, and that created kind of a privacy from the rest of the and I had my mom, bless her, she got me a really powerful stereo,
Yeah.
like several years, like for a birthday or Christmas
Yeah,
or
sure,
something.
sure.
And the problem was that they never let me play it because it was too damn loud. But down there, I could actually do
get
that.
away
So
with
I would,
music, right.
I'd be spinning, records all the time
Right.
down there.
Floor rumbling
And there was a back entrance. There's like a storm door.
Oh, so you had your own
So I
entrance.
could get out, in and out.
Teenager, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
So that was where I spent my my years.
Your formative hardcore
in the
years.
Rat's Nest. Yeah. So I was so counterculture, man.
So, So that you spend a ton of time in New York because it's like, if you don't know this, there's parts of New Jersey where it's a 20-minute commute in, or you jump on the train. Where we are now, does it take 15 minutes to get to Midtown?
5.
Right. It's so
It's probably
close.
a mile as the crow flies.
It's closer. So people who, we have a lot of listeners all over the place. Where we are now, we are in New Jersey. It is significantly closer to everywhere you want to be in Manhattan than any part of Brooklyn. So this is kind of you said it to me on the phone. New York was your playground. It was where you went.
Yeah, I mean, and I went to school there for a number of years too. So understand, like, New Jersey hardcore kind of did not exist for me until later.
Right.
In fact, like, I was the freak show here.
Yeah.
You know, people would be like, "You're going in the city?" Yeah, it's like, it's right there. You know, it's like, of course I'm going in the city.
It always blows my mind because it's something.
Well, and just to describe, if you were to pave 34th Street across the Hudson River, my parents would live on 34th Street in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so anyway, you know, it was that. So I identify much.
You were New York
more
hardcore.
New York.
Sure.
Okay, and so continuing on 86, 87 is cool. You know, we can do archaeology. You tell me the story.
Okay, so I remember that. So I'm down in the rat's nest, right? Anyway, so the New Jersey guys I met through Youth of Today.
Yeah.
Because Mike was drumming for them then.
Right.
And RJ was like their roadie for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And these are all guys from a part of New Jersey that are like, I know nothing about.
It could be the Mars.
I still get all the towns wrong because they're all from like slightly different towns, but sort of in the same area.
It's all Morris County. Yeah.
Right.
I think so. I don't know. But
might as well be a different planet.
But anyway, so I got stories about. Anyway, but those guys. Kind of, I was one of the way stops on the way into the city,
to go through a
so
tunnel,
it was easy to drop by my house,
grab you.
you know, and hopefully grab me or whatever. But anyway, Mike comes over, and he came down at the basement. We're sitting in the basement, and he has this tape, and it's the New York Crew. The record.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay.
That he and Purcell had recorded themselves. He did the drums and vocals, and Purcell did guitar and bass.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of like a pre-Foo Fighters, right? You know, like where Dave Grohl did everything, right?
And had it done.
So it's just Mike and Purcell, and I was closer with Mike than the other guys. I mean, we were all pretty close, but Mike, you know, and I spent quite a bit of time together, and he played this for me.
Yeah.
And I just about fell out of my chair. I was just like, I mean, from the lyrical content to the, the sound, you know, and it wasn't polished by any means. I mean, you hear him on the drums, he's like skipping stuff and whatever. But I was just like blown away.
Right.
And I knew that, hey, the train's leaving the station, man. This thing's going to be big, and of course they were.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what got me thinking, like, wow, he didn't even have a band, and look at what he produced.
This,
So he was really my inspiration for saying, okay, I'm gonna try something here,
right? Yeah.
Because, like you said, I mean, I didn't really get to have necessarily my band,
right.
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 You know, I mean,
absolutely.
So
do you? And I think you might have said this. You didn't even write all the lyrics in Side by Side. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that was a big collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And listen, look at the name of the band. I mean, I wanted it that way.
Right. Yeah. I think people resonate on that. It people, you can feel that it's a unit. You know what I mean? And look at the imagery, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, no. So the lyrics for Side by Side, very few of them actually I could claim.
Right.
You know, I would make adjustments. I'd say, guys, I can't say this, and you know, change it. But you know, the two of the more I don't know if you call them popular songs, but the bigger songs, I guess, Backfire.
Yep.
Alex and I. Well, he wrote the music.
Yep.
And Alex and I wrote the lyrics together on the floor of his like rented room. He rented a room in a house.
Yeah.
Right. And then in that same session or a similar session, we did Living a Lie.
Yeah.
And so those were those were his songs.
Uh-huh.
Time Is Now, I think, was more me.
Nice.
Actually, I think that one. A later song that a lot of people don't probably know was called Guilty. That was all my lyrics. That was
cool.
Eric's music. Probably one of the best songs he wrote, so it's kind of a shame that no one's ever really heard it.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Okay, here we go. A little hardcore.
Yeah.
A little hardcore anecdote. Good, Clean Fun. I think it was Good, Clean Fun. Didn't have any words for a year.
Were you just playing it like as an instrumental?
No, I just said gibberish into the. No. Listen, side by Side in some ways was like the loosest bands you've ever,
Yeah.
And
I mean, you were young, you were 16.
But Alex was 21.
Yeah.
Billy was 26. Sammy, and again, Sammy was kind of almost
he was
beyond his years.
Beyond his years, right?
Yeah, beyond his years. I mean, and motivated, So like he was the one getting us to practice. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which probably was something that shouldn't have been on his shoulders, but
right.
But that's what happened, and it's probably led to some of the tension that's told us all like we're not going to do this anymore.
Right.
No, he was, and you can see it now. I mean, look at how many bands he's.
Oh yeah, he's a
Yeah.
professional musician.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he I was the dilettante. He was the real deal, right? Gosh, I've completely lost.
Side by
my
Side.
train of thought.
So Mike brings the tape over. You're blown away.
Oh, okay,
but
yeah.
mostly it plants the seed in your head.
Yeah. And so that's where, and now we're circling back to the Pagan Babies. Actually,
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
is so I was pretty upset about what was going on in the New York scene, and I said, you know what, I want to do something different,
Right.
and so I actually was trying to find people from outside of the scene. Listen, I can't tell you how many shows I ended up seeing where it was the same people playing, just maybe switching instruments, or one guy was the drummer and now he's the singer, and it was
Sure.
And first of all, there weren't that many of us,
Right?
So that's one of the things. But how many bands can Sammy Purcell and Walter
Luke,
be in?
Sure.
So I didn't want that.
Right.
So I was like, I'm gonna do something different. So to talk about the Pagan Babies, they're a band I think I played, was Side by Side, played with twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
We played once in the Pizzazz Club. I'm pretty sure the Pagans were on that bill.
Yes.
How do you know all of this?
I was a flyer. for it.
But how do you memorize all the
I
flyers?
just remember it. That one's a
You
really
know, like
cool.
people
there's
we study like statistics for like baseball players and stuff. People study.
I just have a
hardcore
memory. The reason is there's a really cool flyer. It's like a dude in a it's an illustration. I like the comic books, so I can remember that stuff. And it's a dude in a he's got a hood up and he's got like Adidas on and he's like running. It's a cool looking flyer. And it's for Club Pizzazz. So when you said Pizzazz, I was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And where was that? Was that in Jersey?
Philadelphia.
Okay.
Philadelphia,
Yep.
yeah. I think we played that show with Youth Today. I'm pretty sure because I remember being in the van. We were lost in Philadelphia, and we were in the van with Richie and everybody. We all crammed into that
one
fucking
van,
van.
yeah.
And I don't know. It may have been the van that I used to borrow from like a neighbor.
Yeah.
Because I don't think YOT had their own van yet. I mean, there's so many stories. But anyway, but we were lost and we stopped. And I remember getting kind of pissed at those guys because the guy we stopped was kind of this overweight dude. And he was wearing these like, not pastel, but like neon, like shorts. Yeah. And he had a Def Leppard hat on. And he was just kind of this, and we're asking him for directions. And he's helping us out. Yeah. Right?
So he's trying to be a good guy.
And
trying to help.
Now Richie can't, he's starting to laugh and he can't stop laughing at this guy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then, so the next thing you know, the whole van's laughing at him. And I'm just like, man,
Sorry.
You guys trying to help us out. Yeah.
Sorry, man.
That's what I was talking about before.
But so we played with the Pagan Babies on their home turf, and then later, I think that year, they actually came and played CB's, and they opened, and that was the Shutdown show. So they played the Shutdown show.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I've always liked those guys because and listen, not all of their music was I like all into,
Sure.
but they had they had their own sound. They were doing their own thing, and I really was impressed by that.
Yeah.
And so I called Mark Pingator,
Right.
who was the bass player for the Pagan Babies, and I don't know if we talked twice or whatever, and he was like, yeah, I'll do like a project. I'll lay down some tracks, and then I don't know.
It just didn't come together.
It didn't. Yeah, I don't know why not. But Lars, who had replaced Billy in Side by Side, I reached out to him. He was already trying to do his next band, which is Uppercut. But he was like, "Yeah, I'll." Everyone was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Right.
And then he kind of roped Carl into it because Carl just likes playing music.
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever
he
it
just
is.
likes
Yeah.
doing that stuff.
We're interviewing Lars and Carl next month.
Are we really?
Yeah. You
Carl's
excited?
my buddy. I love
I know,
him.
you're excited.
Yeah,
I know,
absolutely.
Yeah. And then Rob from Uppercut was kind of an easy fit because Lars and he were practicing all the time.
Sure.
And I think we were practicing in somebody's basement, so we didn't have to pay for studio time. I mean, it was
Perfect. Right.
so it was just it was a good fit.
Yeah.
And then I think Howie says that we were introduced by my friend Steve, who was also in that Jersey group.
Yeah.
We used to call him the Beak, Steve Vivino.
I wonder why.
But I think he introduced me to Howie, and Howie was a guitarist, and I said, "Hey, you want to jam with us?"
right.
And then that was it. And
That's
that was
right.
it. And we tried to keep things reasonable, I guess. So
Yeah.
we did the 4 songs. I don't know if I did that to match New York Crew.
Yeah.
Because I think it was only 4 songs,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I don't know if that was
New York Crew's 4 songs plus the cover. Warriors.
Blitz cover.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then well, what I did was essentially the same thing. So
Yeah.
4 songs plus a cover song.
Yeah.
And actually, anecdotally, when we did play the one show, we were actually playing Teenager in Box wrong. It wasn't
Really?
until we
Right.
I think it wasn't until we got into the studio and Don Fury was making fun of us that he showed, oh, it's not that, it's this. And like, oh. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really fun.
yeah.
Amazing.
But see, and there's a reason we played with Judge first. I mean, there's a reason that Alone in a Crowd opened for
Judge.
an early Judge show
Right.
because Mike and I were friends, and he was very, very supportive.
So where were you? Like, let's go more holistically.
Oh, how do you do that?
Pull back. Clearly, you had some lyrical content. You had stuff you were saying on the Alone in a Crowd record. Where were you at? And you just said it. You kind of been saying it here. 86, 87, hardcore in New York is one family, one big thing, By the end of 87, things changed. What were we talking, 88 into 89?
I guess.
Something,
I was going to some shows, but I was already kind of detaching at that point.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. That's the interesting part to me, because you were there, you felt a part of it, things started to change, you felt not a part of it, not in the same way.
Right.
Like, is that kind of what played into what you wanted to do with Alone in a Crowd?
Absolutely.
I mean, look at the name of the band,
Absolutely.
right?
Well, right. I mean, listen, when you go from a band called Side by Side to a band called Alone in a Crowd,
Right.
it's
That's
kind of
divergent.
a clear,
Yeah.
antithesis, isn't it? So,
And that's something you were very conscious of. even then.
no, it wasn't.
No happenstance. Like, oh, this sounds cool.
Like that was small. I didn't realize that I did that. Right.
And actually, in some ways, Is Anybody There is sort of it's not a response, but I don't know what you would call it.
Reaction?
No, it's like a sister
Uh-huh.
to New York Crew. Because what Mike was singing about was about his time in 82
Yep.
with a cohesive scene and talking about I want it that
way, yeah.
Right.
So he was singing about the same stuff I was.
Yep.
Right.
He was just doing it from a different reference point.
Sure.
And so that's
Yeah.
why I made the point to say I'm not talking back to 82.
Yeah.
I'm just talking back,
2 or 3 years.
two years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And so so I was I had some anger about that. I was very disillusioned. I think
That comes across. like that's the part that I think really hits when you hear Alone in a Crowd. And I love Side by Side. And it's getting ready for this conversation. I was thinking about it because it's been a while. I hadn't listened to the Alone in a Crowd record, and I hadn't listened to Side by Side, and it's different. And you can hear the difference in you as like singing. When you get to Alone in a Crowd, you're raw. You're like it's angry,
yeah.
you know. And I think that's something people resonate with. They feel it, even because I think that disillusionment isn't something. I think that's something that people feel when they're involved in something like a community like that, like hardcore. Just like you were saying, Mike felt it, and he was looking back to '82. You were feeling it. You were looking back to '86. I think people still now resonate, and that's one of the things that they feel. It's like, yeah, these things ebb and flow, you know.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if this sounds, pretentious or whatever, but it's also something that I think everybody can identify with to a certain extent.
Right.
Like when your best high school buddies, and now you're not best high school buddies anymore. It's the same. It's the same kind of thing.
Right. Very global.
Yeah. Right. And when it's especially when it's something like hardcore, where there's so many strong feelings and ideas that are almost collective thought, like, and it's the line it wasn't a game to me, you know what I mean, like yo man, damn, you were mad.
Yeah. Well, and listen, honestly, that record came out, and I tried to kind of keep the band together with other members.
Sure.
And that just didn't.
It wasn't the right fit.
It didn't happen anymore. And I really haven't thought about this stuff for a very long time. So, to hear even people like talking about individual lines of something that I penned in this house that we're in right now,
which is so
is just kind of weird. I mean, I just. But yeah, I mean, I would say there is more of me in Alone in a Crowd than there was in Side by Side.
Right.
Part of that had to do too with Side by Side was kind of my training grounds.
Right.
I mean, that's where I learned
first shot at
everything.
Yeah, of course.
I wouldn't have put it together that you were that young.
No.
Side by Side. I don't think I
you
knew
don't
that.
sound it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am. I was one of the younger guys. I mean, Sammy was the youngest, and then I was next.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Eric was, I think, a year older than me, so we were like the young dudes, and then you had Billy, who was
26.
Yeah, I mean, and then a lot of the other bands, were just a little bit older.
Yeah, just like a set of like
and that
4
made
years
things.
older.
The youth part of it made things a little difficult. I mean, it's hard to tour. When you're a kid, I couldn't even drive.
I was going to say you probably didn't think about Side by Side touring because you couldn't drive.
Right? No. Well, or leave.
And you had school.
Yeah.
Right.
So youth crew, the Youth of Today, that crew of guys. How did you get involved with them? They were just around.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure where that connection kind of solidified.
Sure.
But this is what we were talking about Dwayne before.
Yeah.
And Some Records was, that was our internet chat room, right? That's where you found people looking for bands. That's where you found, what's the latest
demo or 7.
Yeah,
right?
That's where I bought. That's where you sold your T-shirts.
Right.
I mean, that was
like ground zero for like where everybody was going.
Listen,
right?
I cannot. Just like I said about without Rabies Warzone, there's nothing.
Right.
Without Dwayne for that period of time, none of this happens.
Right,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I think that gets lost to a lot of folks. You know what I mean? Walter did a label called Some Records after that as kind of like a tribute.
But didn't.
I don't know if Walter was involved in
Wait a second. Didn't Some Records put out the Straight Ahead record? Wasn't that Dwayne that put that out?
He might have been involved with that. I think so. I Risk Records.
Or was it I Risk?
I Risk. Yeah.
That's right.
But I think he might have been involved with some of it. He did a Straight Ahead tape too. I mean, that was the thing that he's known for. Is there's all these Some Records tapes that he was doing.
He would
basically.
tape anything,
right? And he would,
and
but
everything.
It was like that's the reason bands would have a thing because he'd be like, bands would be like, well, we recorded this
And
thing.
he'd play it in the store, but while he was doing it, he had the dubbing deck running, and he'd be recording the band. No, I'm
and
serious.
sell it. That's what
Yeah.
you do.
I'm serious. Richie got so mad at me one time because he had. Okay, here's what happened. He had a tape that we listened to in the van going somewhere.
Right.
And on one side, it was like SSD, old school, stuff. And,
Right.
and I think it might have even been a mixtape. I can't remember. But on the other side, it was his rap project.
Oh, right.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he had like a 2 MC rap project. And I
Okay.
can't remember what he called it now. And I remember kind of being like, "Oh shit," talking to Dwayne, like,
Yeah.
did you know about
This
this?
existed, right.
And then he plops it in the dubbing deck and he's recording it, right? And when Richie found out that I was like sharing that,
Yeah.
like I mean, I didn't realize that it was some super secret
It wasn't
thing
like-
at
Right,
the time, but I guess I probably should have said, "Hey, do you want this tape back? It's got your."
So you were like Napster before Napster.
Yeah, apparently.
Right, you were the preeminent. I got
That's
it.
really
Apparently,
Got it.
and about as popular as that guy. But yeah, I mean, Dwayne. So anyway, that's where I met Ray Capo,
Yes.
because he would come in and talk to Dwayne and stuff. Now I had seen Youth of Today. It was one of the first of the hardcore. It was the first hardcore show that I saw with the bands that I would eventually be playing with all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was Right Track In,
Yep.
Youth of Today, I think Straight Ahead played, and
Crippled
I think
Youth.
Sick of It All.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
All
Sick
right,
of It All.
I know the date of it
What? See, that just
oh.
boggles my mind.
because it's. I think
I don't
it
know
was,
today's date.
It was Sick with All's first show, and they've talked about the show.
It's called the Birth of Unity show.
It was August 31st,
Was that their
1986.
first show? So I
Pretty
saw
sure.
their first show?
That's
Ni-
kind of cool.
Yeah, August 31st,
No
1986.
kidding.
I was
No
11.
kidding.
It was my 11th birthday.
Oh wow.
I wasn't at
Happy
that
birthday.
show. I was, but I've been to the Right Track In. Yeah, in Freeport, Long Island.
Yeah, that's right. We took the LIRR out there, me
Wow.
and Eric.
Yeah.
And this was my first kind of, for lack of a better term, like inner circle New York hardcore show.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Like all the other shows I went to were like either big Ritz shows, like where it was just randoms.
2,000 people. It's-
Yeah,
you're just, yeah.
randoms.
Right.
To see like Sam Hain or saw MDC once.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we're talking
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a while ago,
Sure,
right?
Yeah, a couple years back, right?
But this was like this was at the time that Luke was introducing me to like the newer bands.
Sure.
And so I went to that show.
Wow.
And
Right.
that was like just like hearing the Warzone tape was
Yeah.
like a life changer. That
The
one was
show.
a life changer
That's
too.
amazing.
Because I really liked NYC Mayhem.
Yes.
Yep.
And so to see Straight Ahead was
That's it.
was
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Oh,
you know.
of course. Oh,
And,
wow.
and Tommy was drumming for Youth of Today
Yes,
at
he
that
was.
time.
Right.
So this is again. He sang for Straight Ahead,
And he jumps over there.
jumps in
Right.
and does the drums for Youth of Today.
I think it's funny because it's when you don't think about it, it's like, oh, there's all these New York hardcore bands. But if you even look at that era, yeah, there
Yeah,
are.
we treat
It's-
about 12 people.
Yeah, people switching in and out,
Yeah.
and that's
Well, listen, nothing just springs up from nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a bloodline.
yeah, exactly.
For all of these bands, and I don't know, you want to call it 6 degrees of separation
Right.
or whatever, but yeah, I mean, like the folks at that show, I mean, if you think about it, we're like the future of
Yeah.
hardcore for the rest of the 80s.
Oh yeah, if there was a picture from that show, you could go, oh look, there's these people, and they did this band, and then you take that person, this person, they did that band,
Yeah.
and it's wild.
But
to think about.
that was one of those where you're kind of a younger kid. Like I think anyone who's ever kind of gotten into hardcore from the outside, they didn't have a brother in the band or something like that. That was the first time that I was like, okay, I'm in the pit, I'm here we go,
Yeah.
And I was a skinny kid, and I got nailed so hard by Jason Crackdown.
Yep.
He was he was
pretty formidable,
yeah. He knew like kung fu and stuff.
Was
and-
that who we were talking about with Gavin that ended up becoming an Iron Man?
Yeah, I think so.
Was that
Yeah,
Richie
yeah.
or Jason?
Jason,
It might have been Jason.
Jason became a park ranger or something like
Maybe
that.
because he was doing like Iron Man races. Like he's in that kind of a shape. Yeah, I think it might have been Jason. Then.
He was, and he was a good dude.
Yeah.
Really, got your back kind of guy. But if you're there and you're in his way,
Sorry about your bad luck, Chris.
yeah.
So you talked about the New York, like, kind of luminaries. And I know, right?
Sorry.
No, it's funny.
I think that's hilarious.
It's a funny way to say it. There was a story you were telling me that I think is really good about the band who I think put out the best record of 1986, and that's the Age of Quarrel, the Cro-Mags. And you had some stories about them.
Did I?
Well, you said you used to go see them practice.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So now we've come for a circle. Oh, yeah. I didn't remember that at all.
It's okay. No worries.
Yeah. So we're in Weehawken, right?
Weehawken, New Jersey.
Weehawken, New Jersey. You can't make this stuff up. Okay. So here I already told you about the gas station I got on one side. At the end of the street, there's a sewage treatment plant at this dead end street right here. So that's what? A block, two blocks.
Yeah, not 6 houses.
There's a trucking company there. Behind. Oh, there's also a Catholic church, but that's next to the sewage treatment plant.
Potato, potato.
Then directly behind my parents' house is a gentleman's club. Yeah, right there.
Right.
And it really is like, I mean, you guys drove up here. I mean, this is not the suburbs.
No.
This is the urbs.
Yes.
You know,
100%.
and it's kind of like not really particularly nice urbs either. There was I don't know if it's still there actually. There was a kind of I considered it a sketchy bar called Gennaro's, and it was under the viaduct over here. Because we're right by the Lincoln Tunnel. Everything feeds into the Lincoln Tunnel here. Anyway, there was a rehearsal studio right like across the street from this gentleman's club behind my parents' house.
Sure.
And I don't know how I found out about it, but the Cro-Mags were getting ready to go on tour. I think it was with Black Sabbath.
Wow. Right.
Didn't they tour
that.
Europe or something with Black Sabbath?
Yeah, and they did something with, like a run with Motorhead. And
Well,
Black,
they had earlier. They had done Motorhead for sure.
Right, so they did a Black Sabbath.
Yeah, this was later. This is after '86.
Right.
This is and anyway, I would, and I don't know where I got the balls to do this, but I'd go over there, and go watch them practice. Just and like I was just a hardcore kid. I mean, they knew me, but like I wasn't in their circle. I wasn't,
You weren't like a roadie.
No, I wasn't a roadie. I wasn't like their old bandmates from back in the day. I was this young kid.
Yeah.
And I know Mike Judge came with me one time too, and they knew him.
Right.
And they were like, awesome.
Right.
I brought him carrot juice one time, because
They're pretty psyched on that.
I had a juicer here somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, so I brought him carrot juice. I remember John Joseph like drinking the carrot juice, and I don't know if he just did it to be nice because it didn't look like he was enjoying it very much. It was sort of like he was like trying hard to get it down, kind of
He was
thing.
doing it though. All right.
But they would just go through the set over and over and over again, and it's the old lineup. It's Mackey, Doug Holland,
Harley,
and
Paris,
John Joseph is still in the band.
And, Right. Wow.
So I got like a private Cro-Mag show probably 2 or
Pretty good.
3 times.
That's pretty good.
At their height.
Yeah.
Punk height.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's their height,
and and that I don't know, what that studio. I don't know if that's still a studio.
there,
It was
yeah.
like a big warehouse,
Right.
like under the bridge over here.
Wow. Yeah. They were asking why they were doing that, but I was like, they were probably all living in Manhattan, and it was probably a lot cheaper to come get a big rehearsal studio
and
space
you know
there.
what? That one of their managers was around here too, and I don't
so he
know
probably
if
set it
that
up
I
and
don't
just
know
got
if
him
that
over
had
there.
something to do with it.
Right.
That guy, yeah. I remember him giving me a Cro-Mags T-shirt, which I think I did a show in once.
Right. I'm sure
I
there's
forget
photos
who that
of it.
guy
Right.
was, but
Who managed him? It wasn't Chris Williams, was it?
well, no, it wasn't him that gave me the
Right.
T-shirt. There was another dude.
Guy involved, right?
But yeah, so that was a great thing, it wasn't the same as seeing them, do a show.
Yeah, right. But you're getting to see how they're doing it. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the things I always talk about is that over the years they've split off and branched, and it's a whole thing. But man, you see Harley whenever he plays, he always sounds perfect. He still does it, and you can tell.
He doesn't fuck around.
So let's talk about Alone on the Crown. You do the show, things don't come together. What happens in your life?
Well,
So let's pause quick. So,
Yeah.
and this is to make you feel weird. I'll try my best not to.
thanks.
The legend is you do Alone in a Crowd, and then
There's a legend.
There's a legend.
I have a legend.
You
There's
do.
a legend. Yeah.
And then you disappear. The legend was you became Merchant Marine. That's all anybody knew.
Right.
So it wasn't sure. Like, is he out on boats now?
That's fairly accurate.
Right.
So before I even got into hardcore, I started working on sail. The same one that I was telling you about, Rabies.
Yeah.
I started working on that boat in New York when I was like 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for maybe summer or two. And when they went on their extended trips, I couldn't go because I had to go to school. So it's
Yeah.
like that's the story of my life. It's like I wanted to do all these things,
Yeah.
and school
Always got
was
in the
always
way.
in the way. I was not a good student as a result.
Yeah.
I barely passed high school.
Yeah.
So what happened was I had zero college prospects.
Yeah.
So I enrolled at the City College of New York, which was an open admissions school in Harlem.
Uh-huh.
And I started taking courses there. And then I also had a job where I would actually work at a museum, and then I also worked on the boats.
Yeah.
So I was working
busy,
and going to school. And for whatever reason, I don't know if the teenage static in my brain had ceased. But I actually found out I was pretty good at college, which is kind of weird because like any indication from high school would
Was
have been that I
negative,
was
yeah.
going to fail.
Yeah.
I kept on doing school. I kept sailing, and I got enough sea time to get my captain's license so I got my captain's license
Right.
in
Oh,
the
wow.
early 90s, I think.
Yeah.
And that was good. So it was like
Yeah.
sail captain, make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing that, that's the career path I wanted to take.
Yeah.
So my license was a limited license. So I started looking at how to get a bigger one. And there's New York has a Merchant Marine Academy, the SUNY Maritime College in the Bronx. So I found out what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And of course, it required all kinds of math that I had never taken
Right.
or taken and failed.
Yes.
So I went back to the City College of New York
Did it.
did all of the prereqs that I needed to do. A pretty motivated student now
Right,
because
yeah.
this was,
Found something that you loved.
Now you're in your 20s and you know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I guess I must have been in the 20s. And I had gone away, like I'd gone to school and then I'd go away for 6 months on a boat and then come back.
Right,
And like,
right.
so I can't quite sequence that. But I got into Fort Schuyler, which is what we call it, Fort
Right.
Schuyler in the Bronx.
Right.
Scholar.
And I had a lot of transfer credits. So
Yeah.
I was done in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And then 3.5 years, something like that. I graduated early. I graduated in January. And then I started shipping out. I started working tugboats in New York Harbor. And then I got a shipping job because being on a tugboat going down the East Coast between New York and Philly in March is
Not fun.
Not great.
for the birds.
So, if
yeah.
you can explain to the uninitiated, what's a merchant marine? Like, what is that?
Okay, well, all right. So the transportation industry is a highly regulated industry. And the merchant marine, that kind of title, as it would suggest, is commercial. It's private.
Okay, yeah.
For the most part.
Okay.
The reason that it has this kind of quasi-military connotation is that a big part of being able to wage a war effort is you need to get all your stuff there. So there aren't enough ships in the Navy, for example, to actually do that.
Yes.
Wow.
So what happens is the government then hires hires merchant ships to
Marines,
do
yeah.
that. So the Merchant Marine was a militarized organization at the time of like World War II.
Sure.
for example.
Right.
In fact, they put guns on the merchant ships, because they were getting attacked by submarines,
which makes
and
sense,
stuff.
right?
Right.
Yep.
So they need.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, but a merchant marine just basically means this. It means a commercial sailor.
Okay,
That's what it
makes sense.
means.
Okay.
And it's regulated by the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Okay.
So my licensure was all through the United States Coast Guard. I wasn't in the Coast Guard. They
But you
were
were
the
licensed through.
They were
Right.
the agency that oversaw my license.
Wow. Okay.
So I want off this tugboat as soon as I
Yeah,
can.
New York to Philly in
and
March,
I get
nothing.
a call from my alma mater. There were no jobs when I got out of school.
Yeah.
None. But I get a call and say, hey, I got a ship. Can you be in Africa in 3 days? And I was like, I'm looking at the ice on the tugboat that I now have to beat off with a baseball bat,
Yeah.
break the ice off
Right,
the
right.
tugboat. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, I'll
Yes.
be there. And I basically told them, I can't do any more hitches with you on the tugboat. And
And
Where
And,
in Africa? Do you remember?
I ended up in Mombasa.
Okay.
Picked up a ship in Mombasa. And listen, honestly, it was such a whirlwind thing. I didn't have a visa to get into the
Yeah.
country. I mean, like I'm at the border,
Right.
Or the customs,
Yeah.
And there's this very sleepy. It was very late at night. Very sleepy customs guy. And I looked at him. I had been traveling for 2 days, and I said, I have absolutely nothing to declare. I had no visa. I had nothing. And he looked at me, and I'm thinking, here's where he's going to ask
Hey.
me for a bribe.
yeah.
And he just waves me in.
Like,
And that was it. No stamp, no checking
Nothing.
anything.
Right. Now
I
you're
just
in his
walk-
country.
I'm in Africa.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Holy
And
shit.
but then the story gets even funnier because no one picks me up.
Right.
Like to take me to the
now
ship.
you're
There's,
in-
there's no ship. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
I'm in Mombasa, Kenya,
Right.
and I'm like calling, and no
Yeah.
one's picking up the phone.
And you're calling from a payphone, probably.
Right, 'cause there's no
Payphone.
cell phone.
Yeah, there's
Right.
And you're not
Yeah.
you're not trying to get an Uber.
well, there certainly were no cell phones in Africa. at
Right.
that
Sure.
time.
Fair.
and no Uber, so you're just
No.
there waiting.
Right, and
For
so
some-
finally a cab comes and gets me, and we're going down to the docks in Mombasa, and I'm just seeing these like rusty banana boat,
Right,
and
right.
I'm, there was a break bulk carrier there, and I'm looking at them and going, oh, what have I done?
Yeah,
Right.
what
What did I sign up for
That
here?
tugboat doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, and so we turn a corner, and there's this white cruise ship, and it was semester at sea.
Right.
Which is a college program
Yeah, yeah.
where kids go around like does a world circumnavigation,
Right, as you're learning during
and they
the-
get
yeah.
like 2 credits.
Yeah,
for it
right,
or
right.
whatever. And I was an officer on that ship, so my first hitch as a mate on a ship
Right.
was going around the world. So
That's amazing.
Wow.
that was pretty cool. They did a road rules on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
ship.
Oh
Really?
wow.
On
Okay.
MTV, like the year after,
Right.
I
Oh,
think
my God.
And
How
so
long
you were
does
out
that
for 6
take?
months?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
That first hitch was 4 months.
4 months. And you returned to Kenya? I would
No,
imagine.
no. Well, I got okay. So when I
Right.
say circumnavigation,
Yeah.
it's more complicated than that.
Sure.
It's we went from Africa to India, to Vietnam, to Hong Kong,
Right.
to Kobe, Japan, which had just had an earthquake. So like
Right.
it was
Yeah.
all,
Right.
I mean,
right. I
a
can't
mess.
imagine. Yeah.
Cool city though.
Yeah.
Then to Seattle, then to Ensenada, Mexico,
Right.
then to Tahiti.
Really?
No, did we go to? Yes, we went to Tahiti, then to Sydney, Australia, or
Right.
Auckland, New Zealand. Those two,
Yeah.
and then we went to Fiji,
right.
and then Hawaii,
Yeah.
and then back to Seattle.
Wow. So I mean, there's times that you're probably out at sea for weeks at a time, right? Like
That
to
trip
go from certain
that
places.
trip,
Some of the Pacific, yeah.
crossing from Mexico to Tahiti
Yeah.
was
Right.
like a 2-week passage at sea.
See a lot of the Pacific there.
Yeah.
And that's it. There were no ships. There was
Nothing
no.
else,
I mean,
right?
it was nothing.
Yeah.
What was the draw to boats and the whole
I
thing?
liked it.
Yeah.
I
Just
liked
being
it.
on the Hudson. Like is that
Well,
what
yeah,
kinda,
New York Harbor. That's where it started.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It just.
Yeah.
I guess I caught the bug.
That's nice.
It got old. I mean, that's why I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah,
but
right.
it got old.
How long did you do it for?
I stopped in 2004.
Oh, so a while.
Yeah, I shipped out
10,
a long
15
time.
years, huh? Like 12 years?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
If you count my time before going to school, but
Yeah.
after school maybe 8
Right.
years,
That's
something
a
like
long
that. 8 or
time
9
away
years.
out in, right, like most of the time you're out on.
Well, the first year I shipped 11 months
Oh,
for
wow.
different companies. I did
Right.
did the cruise ship, and then I did an oil tanker, and then I did another cruise ship, and I did that cruise ship, the other cruise ship,
Yeah.
for a year.
So explain that to like somebody who's never done it. Like, what is your role?
Job?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Well, I was I was a mate, so
Yeah.
I was a navigation officer.
Uh-huh.
So I'd stand basically 8 hours a day, broken up into
Yeah.
4-hour watches, 8 hours a day on the bridge, navigating
Just making sure you're
the
going the
ship.
right way. Wow.
Well, and avoiding collisions and
Right, right.
keeping an eye on things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I became a second mate, so it started third mate. When I became a second mate, I was doing all of the navigational planning, so keeping the charts up, plotting the courses, and everyone else would follow
Your
that plan.
Oh wow.
There's a saying.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the difference between a fairy tale and a sea story?
What?
Okay, well, a fairy tale starts once upon a time. A sea story starts, now this is no shit. So we could fill literally a dozen podcasts with crazy
Just sea
stuff
stories.
at
Right.
sea.
I mean, I would imagine. I mean, I always get made fun of this because I brought this up one time I was going on a cruise. Mm-hmm. The existence of pirates, right? I mean,
Yeah, piracy was not as big
As
a
it is,
concern.
right. they got made fun of.
There are really very specific areas
Right.
where that's an issue. Obviously, Somalia.
Sure, sure.
Everyone knows about that.
Right.
The Straits of Malacca, for example, which
Where-
is
Where's Straits of Malacca?
that's Southeast Asia.
Okay, sure.
like
Philippines,
Right.
Indonesia,
Singapore.
okay.
Yeah. Let me think. Actually, I wouldn't know if I would call it piracy, but I think Brazil was a
really?
problem for
Yeah.
a while,
Right.
where people would come up to anchored ships and come and steal stuff, and and after 9/11, the knowledge that here you have oil tankers, here you have ships out there that are vulnerable, so they started wanting to put like M16s and like the mariners like me had to go training with them, and I'm
Right.
like, I was like,
Not.
okay, learning how to shoot a gun or clean or take one apart
Yeah.
and put one together is not the same as like squad level tactics on a ship.
Right. Right.
If they want to protect the thing that bad, put a force recon on board
Yeah,
or
sure,
something,
yeah.
So I was like not into that. That
Right.
was not a cool kind of thing. And then what happened is that the U.S. fleet, I mean, there's newer ships now, but at that time it was aging,
Right.
and the after the Exxon Valdez, all the oil tankers had like a kind of a termination date.
Yeah, expiration,
because-
right.
Yeah.
So they were talking about double hulling the ships from my company, and I knew it was never going to happen.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I was in my 30s, and I turned to my wife and I'm like, look, if I'm going to change, it has to be now.
Right.
Otherwise, I got to turn back to the Union Hall and just get whatever I get.
Whatever
My
you're
schedule,
there, right.
which had been great. I had seniority. My schedule had been
Sure.
great.
Right.
And that's when I ended up.
law school.
Yeah, I did what everyone else does when. What can you do?
Let's be
Nothing.
lawyers.
Go to law school. Yeah.
So, law school. You guys got some things to talk about this. You both
Yeah.
went.
It's tough.
Yeah. What'd you think? Because you were pretty good at college.
I
Law school?
actually did pretty well at college. Except at college I didn't have 3 kids and a mortgage. So there was a lot riding on.
Right.
There was a lot.
So you had a full family doing law school. Did you do like a night program?
No, I went for the day program.
Sure.
Because I didn't. Luckily, having worked solid,
Right.
we had enough that I could get through 3 years.
Right.
I took a
Right.
very minimal loan, so that
Right.
wasn't going to be that expensive.
Right.
And I went to the day program.
Right. Because I would imagine out at sea, there are no expenses, right? For the most part.
Well, it was that's right. And I
right.
got paid basically year round, but I had essentially 6 months off every year.
Wow. Right.
So it was a good gig
Right.
for the most part.
Yeah.
I also, however, My youngest daughter, I missed her crawling. I never saw her crawl because I was gone for that.
Right.
You know,
'cause
so
you're away for such a period.
right
of time.
for
It's not
that
like
for
I was out
that
of town
period.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah, she went from being
yeah.
a slug to being a walker.
Right.
Essentially.
Right.
For me.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't. It was a good career, but it was time for a change.
Right.
And so yeah, I went to law school. It was 10 miles. They had just opened it up.
Oh,
10
wow.
miles from my house.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was a state school, and.
Right. And what school was that? Do you mind saying?
Oh no, I can tell you. It was Florida A&M University.
Oh, yeah.
Their
okay.
law school.
Agricultural.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's right.
Which is an historically black college
Right.
university.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is that in Tallahassee? Where is that?
The law school is in Orlando.
Orlando.
But the main campus is Tallahassee.
Okay.
Correct.
So how'd you end up in Florida?
Oh, I met
right,
a
yeah.
I met a girl.
Hey,
Yeah.
the reason we all do everything.
Tale
I
as
met a
old as
girl.
time. Right?
and I kind of kicked myself, but I had a condo in Brooklyn Heights,
Oh, that's where, yeah.
and I sold it and moved down to Florida.
Yeah.
Now it's given, I have a nice house
Sure,
or whatever,
sure.
but I found out what that's worth now,
Yeah.
and that's rough.
That's where my office is. That's where you go.
Yeah.
That's
oh,
Brooklyn Heights.
Really?
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
office is on
I was
Remsen
on
Street.
I was on Poplar.
Oh, get it.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
beautiful. Oh,
yeah, the gas lights.
Yes. Yeah.
That's where I live.
Really? Oh,
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
right with a view of the bridge.
yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really nice area now.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
back then it was
listen,
nice.
the Heights was always
Nice.
pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was great. I used to walk across the bridge to go to Manhattan. I mean,
Right.
it was awesome.
Beautiful.
Other than the snowstorm that we just had,
Yeah.
do you miss New York? Or do you find yourself up here?
That's a great question. I don't miss New York. And the reason is that the New York that I would miss doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I go to New York and I am as much a stranger. My neighbors now in Florida, when they're going like, oh, we're going to New York, tell us cool places to
You're
go.
like-
I'm like, I don't have a clue, man.
Yeah.
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 And things that I remember that I really liked about New York, some of them are gone, and they're really little things. Like I took my kids one year to the Natural History Museum because my dad used to take me all the time.
Sure,
Why?
yep.
Because you could get in for a penny.
Cheap, right,
Right.
exactly.
Whatever.
And we'd
Yeah.
spend the whole day there.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
So
Especially if it's cold, you go there with a kid. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Because you see this house. I mean, I didn't grow up with a whole lot. So, I took my kids there, and I said, we're going to go to the whale room.
Yep.
You know, where they
Yeah.
have a
The
blue
big
whale
whale.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hanging
hanging
over the
over.
ceiling.
Yeah.
I was there no less than 6 weeks ago.
And, but here's the thing. Do they still have the cafe there?
Yeah.
Okay. See, when I was going as a kid, they kept that room almost pitch black.
Right.
Yeah.
Just so you. Right.
So, and they have the bays where, and you go, and like, for instance,
Those are lit up, yeah.
the squid fighting the sperm whale,
Yeah.
which like was one of my favorite
Yeah.
Such
things.
iconic.
Was like you almost had to go and let your eyes adjust to the darkness to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
now you go into the whale room and it's a cafe.
Hey,
Yeah.
bright as all.
And
get-
bright,
yeah.
they have lights everywhere because otherwise you'd be stumbling all over
Right.
yourself.
Right.
And that experience
Is
is
yeah.
lost.
Yep.
Right.
So yeah, to answer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't miss New York. I also, every time I come here, when we were here, I was here, I don't know, all holiday season,
Yep.
and visiting a friend in Brooklyn Heights,
Right.
old friend of mine, and we're like, let's walk across the bridge because my kids wanted to walk across
Yeah.
the bridge.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was the Bataan Death March. I mean, shoulder to shoulder with like all of these people, and we're all
Yeah.
kind of shuffling
Yeah.
along.
Penguins.
Yeah.
And the bikes are trying to scream by on the bike lane. They're yelling
Yeah.
at us, and we're like, "Well, where do you want me to
us
go?"
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, "Wow, this
Yeah.
is not fun at
Yeah,
all."
This is not what you remember.
So I'm
Yeah.
not dissing New York. I'm sure there's great things. I hear like Brooklyn is completely different now.
Yes.
But no, I and every time, including this trip,
Yeah.
every time I've had to shovel snow.
Yeah. Then
When you
remember-
live
yeah.
somewhere warm, I've done that. I left the
Well,
Northeast and
and-
went somewhere warm and came back. And I was like,
This sucks. Like,
first
what am I
snow, I'm
doing?
like, oh, this is beautiful. Then I had to shovel my truck out, and I come back in the house, and my hands are swollen up. I'm like, why'd I do this? What am I doing?
I could wear shorts all the time. What am I doing?
Well, and here's the other thing, because since I've lived in Florida, I've had 4 hurricanes roll over my house.
Right.
And then this last one that hit the Panhandle was really bad.
Yeah.
But this house that you're in, this was how high the water was from Sandy.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
Really?
Sure. Yeah.
So my parents got hit with a hurricane and got flooded out worse than I ever have. So I'm like, you got hurricanes, but I don't have no snow. I'll take my chance.
Yeah.
I'll take my chances.
Fair.
So and also I live in a pretty rural area.
Okay.
It's becoming more suburban, but it's. I mean, there's still
You have
horse
space.
farms there.
Yeah.
There's still a couple of groves, and I love walking my dog by the lakes and stuff.
That's
and
awesome.
So yeah, I think I'm staying.
That's great.
I think I'm staying.
So, speaking of houses and water, is this the thing? The house?
Yeah, I mean,
this is
so, all right, so
interesting.
you go to school, you pass the
Tying it
bar.
together.
You're strictly maritime law at the time. Like how does that work?
Well, that's how I got hired by my first
firm.
law firm.
Okay.
Is that I worked at a bigger firm with an admiralty, a maritime lawyer.
Right.
Actually, 2 of them.
Right.
And then he went off and started his own firm, and I've been there ever since. So I went. I went and worked for him.
Different bar for maritime law. There's no kind of
No.
Just okay.
No. And
Not
listen,
like-
I am not. I can tell you right now, I am not going to bog this conversation
Right.
down with, what it means to be an
Sure,
admiralty
sure.
and all of that.
Right.
But basically, I think the easiest way to put it is that maritime law is simply a separate body of law. It's federal law
Right.
that bumps up against state law on occasion.
Right.
But it's basically, I do everything that a lawyer would under state law, for
Sure.
instance, New Jersey state law.
Right.
But I do it under a different body of law, which is federal law.
Sure.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
And it can get really complicated.
Right. Where those kind of abut and overlap.
Correct.
Sort of, right.
And you'd be surprised because, if you think, we've had 200 and however, how old is the country now? 200 and how many?
It's
1776
yeah,
now? What is that?
it's approaching 250 in a few years.
Yeah.
240.
So after 250 or
Yeah.
so years of jurisprudence, we still haven't figured stuff out. We're
Yeah.
still,
Right.
that law still isn't settled. And there's splits between different circuits. The 9th Circuit out in California versus
Yeah.
the 11th Circuit in Florida, for example,
Right,
versus
right.
the 2nd Circuit here.
Right,
The
right.
3rd Circuit in New Jersey.
So the
I mean,
precedence isn't really
Yeah,
kind of- yeah.
yeah. So it can, it's a fairly interesting area.
I'm sure.
And I'm about probably 95% now is
Just strictly-
maritime, straight
Right.
up maritime.
Right.
What took you to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, that's.
Because this is something Tom mentioned, and Tom's our legal eagle over here, and he was like, "Oh, he was involved in this case. I read it. I read the
Well,
case." So
it's actually a pretty interesting story. And is it F.W. Wheat? Is that the case that we're required to read in constitutional law? Something wheat.
Yes.
And it's about the wheat farmer who wanted to keep some of his wheat for himself,
Right,
rather
right.
than sell it.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court said it's still commerce, so we can still regulate you,
Yes.
even though you're using it for
For your
personal
own
use.
use, yes.
Right. Well, the story behind that is that this was basically this one guy who was picking a big fight with the federal government. I mean, that's
Right.
really what was
Right.
happening.
And it went through all these.
And it went through
different
the,
appeals
and I've come to the belief that that's how these Supreme Court cases
get to-
happen.
Right.
it's a singular.
It's
It's a
one
person.
guy.
Okay, so
Not a ton of class action or anything,
and that's
right.
exactly what happened. So
Right.
so basically, what happened was I was representing a municipality in South Florida.
Okay.
And this guy had and I think to call it a houseboat is giving it a lot of credit. It was a plywood box.
Okay.
And he considered himself an activist and really was challenging the municipality all the time. I mean, I think he had 11 lawsuits running with them at the time.
Right.
At the time of my case, and my case was about his houseboat.
Right.
one of the things in maritime law is that you can treat a boat like the offending party, and the way you get jurisdiction over it is by arresting it. You actually file a petition with the federal court, and the U.S. Marshals go and seize the boat.
Wow. Okay. Right.
Okay.
So they go and take the boat and take it to boat jail.
Right. Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Or it stays right there with a sticker on it,
Okay,
basically.
yeah.
Right,
But yes.
but it's seized, right,
yes.
yeah.
So that's what we did. This guy didn't sign a new contract with the marina. He didn't get show proof of insurance. He was behind on his rent.
Yeah.
And so we had gotten rid of, I think, 17 derelict boats in the marina, and he was the last one standing.
Right.
So the marshals rolled down and
Right. And just
took the boat. So then the argument was,
right.
well, if it's not a boat, you couldn't have arrested it because
Right.
you can only do that to a vessel.
Right.
Right.
If it's
So
a house,
is,
you couldn't seize
is it a
Right.
vessel? Right.
Yes.
So we do, I think 9 months after the arrest, I tried the case to the district court in Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
We won. But, of course, we knew
Appeal.
what was coming.
Right.
The appeal happened.
Right.
So I argued it to the 11th Circuit.
Right.
We won.
Yep.
Here comes that other appeal.
And then cert was granted
Right.
at the Supreme Court. So now I did not argue the case to the Supreme Court, but
Yeah.
I was at counsel table.
Right.
I think I was sitting about as close as I am to you to Sonia Sotomayor.
Sotomayor.
Wow. About 3
okay.
feet. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was, I guess at that time it was Sotomayor, Kagan,
Kennedy. Right.
Kennedy,
Right.
yes, Ginsburg,
With
Scalia,
Wow.
Clarence Thomas, and Alito.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's like a
That
pretty.
that-
That's it.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
it
yeah.
for a while.
That's
Yeah.
them.
And how
That's
long?
them.
What do they? How much time do they allot you to argue? It's
Oh,
pretty quick,
goodness.
right?
Oh,
Like, aren't they
goodness.
sort of?
You know what? That day is somewhat of a blur.
Oh, I don't know why. Yeah.
One of the most memorable days of your life.
Yeah, but a blur.
Right. Yeah.
Right,
The way those things
yeah.
happen.
But a blur. And by the way, I don't know. Sometimes I think people hype stuff up. I mean, this was going to court to me.
Yeah.
And in some
Right.
ways, I thought this was more of a. There's a theatrical element
Sure.
to going to the Supreme Court. It's all in the press. I mean,
Yeah.
NPR talked about my case.
Sure. Right.
Okay.
Right.
You know that
But
never
meanwhile, at the-
that
at
never
the-
happened.
right, at the Court of
Nina Totenberg, saying,
yeah.
this is what was argued today.
Right. 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 Court of Appeals, no one cares. No one's giving you any.
No,
yeah.
no,
right. But as soon as
no,
it hits that level,
no.
right.
But anyway, so I was there. Jeff Fisher was the counsel that argued on the other side,
Right.
and he is a very, very good. We had David Frederick, who was a
Right.
very good. I think he's had like 58. At the time, he had 58 maritime arguments to the Supreme Court. I mean,
Wow, right. So
I'm
this is-
working in a
Yeah.
circle
This is
that I've never,
Right. It's rarefied air.
very, very, yeah.
Right. Right.
And at the end of the day, the court said it was not a vessel.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
so it went back down,
Right.
but it was reversed but not remanded, which confused everybody.
Yes.
Right.
And then
Okay.
we started fighting new fights.
Oh my goodness.
Right. back at the state level. Right, or-
District court
District
level.
court.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I think I litigated that case for like another year, maybe.
Unbelievable.
More appeals, but that
Right.
was cert denied. So
Right.
he didn't go back up to the Supreme Court. But I am
Right.
gonna say one thing.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, listen, never give up, okay? Because
Right.
he actually took a separate case against that same municipality,
Okay.
Yep.
had a trial, in federal court, lost,
Right.
appealed, lost, went to the Supreme Court a second time, and won again.
This man has had two cases
Two
in
cases
the Supreme
against
Court.
the same opponent,
Right.
and won both
Both
times at the Supreme Court.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think there
That's-
is some. I think that's a record of
It
some
has to
some
be.
sort.
Yeah,
For separate reasons
Right.
too. Like it's not even that
Yeah.
is.
Now, luckily, I didn't have anything to do
No,
with
sure.
with that one.
God.
Wow. So he must have a ton of money. unless people
or a
were
lot
doing
of
it pro
time,
bono,
or both.
or both. But I mean, to be able to kind of like continuously fight and kind of have
Well,
these
you can
attorneys
listen.
on, yeah.
You can find if you want anyone
Yeah.
wants to look into that story.
Yeah,
there's a
lot
lot of information out
Interesting.
there. Very contentious
I
stuff.
would imagine.
So,
Playing a hardcore show is comparatively.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, I'm. It's going to sound kind of silly, but like going to the Supreme Court is just another day at work. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is.
Right.
I mean, it's still the same. I'm doing the same
Same
stuff,
arguments, same
Yeah.
legal. Right.
Same thing you went to school for and trained for and do every day.
Do every day. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Right.
and I don't mean to, I'm not belittling people who go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
No, but it's part of the routine.
Yeah.
You know.
With this, it's we kind of circling back. You haven't really been too connected to hardcore, you'd say?
Yeah. I when I listened to a few of your podcasts just to kind of get an idea what this was. I mean, you guys were talking about stuff, and I had absolutely no idea what you were talking.
That's okay.
Right,
That's good. Has it
More
been
often than not, people don't really know what we're talking. Like a lot of it's
all
new
right.
stuff that people like, literally new stuff, like 2018. Well, a lot
Yeah,
of
true.
times,
Me too. But the has it been overwhelming to you in any sense? Like coming to it and looking at it, or and not maybe overwhelming is the wrong word. Like, has it been? What has been your perspective? Because, like, and this is a part that I think is cool and interesting is that you had this time where you were really involved and you were around in a unique place and time for hardcore, and now you're getting a chance to kind of see some of it, and not that you're like diving back in. I think you even said you're like, this is a one-time gig. I'm doing this, and I'm not going to do another. There's no second Alone in the Crowd reunion coming.
No. And even if there was a good cause, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm kind of.
This is the
it.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but from the outside, what are some of the things you've thought about? Has it been kind of funny? Have you had people you've reconnected with, that kind of thing?
Yeah. No. You mean for like recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I've had people contact me kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But is it overwhelming? No. I don't think it is. What is kind of, I still haven't wrapped my head around is why anybody cares.
Right.
Not about Howie, but about Alone in the Crowd. Like,
right.
I think of all of these bands that have kept going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sick of It All has been playing out nonstop ever since.
30 years.
Right?
33,
Yeah.
32, yeah.
Maximum Penalty, same. They're playing our
Right,
show.
right.
They've been together. Some bands, maybe not for the entire 30 years, but a good chunk of it.
Big chunks
Even
of it.
some of these newer bands have been playing out for 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, Tim McMahon,
Yep.
his band. I mean,
Serge, he's been doing different bands
for 30
since,
years.
Right.
I mean,
Tara's
so
almost 20 years old.
So,
Tara's almost 20 years old.
honestly, I had 4 years in it.
Yeah.
I look to these guys, the ones that are still doing it. That's what's going on now, not what I did,
Right.
So this is kind of a, that's a little strange to me, and also, it's 4 songs.
Yes.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah.
It's 4 songs, and I am so sorry that if people have been listening to the same 4 songs for 30 years, that's just, I can't think of anything worse, actually.
Do you have anything planned for the set? You want to spill the beans?
Yeah,
on
well, I'll spill some.
Okay.
I'll spill some because, well, first of all, we're still putting it together.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do just 4 songs.
Okay.
I'm with some pretty.
You're just gonna do 4 songs twice.
Yeah.
Right.
And the encore. Yeah, no. We listen. I'm working with guys who got some serious chops.
Yeah,
Okay. I
nice.
mean, Carl's been playing out.
Yes.
And like not just hardcore bands, like other bands. So's Rob. They've been playing together for years now.
Right.
I don't even know what his newest band is called. I
Right.
have no idea.
Carl has he's like a stoner rock band with a
Oh,
bunch
okay.
of folks. I can't think of the name of it.
Cool.
That Steve Murphy from Uppercut sings for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
That's
forget
cool.
the damn name of it. But they do really well. But they're like kind of a slow metal band, like a stoner rock
All
kind
right.
of band. Yeah.
Rad. We should figure that out.
So we have a lot of material collectively that
Right.
we can draw from.
Okay.
So it's going to be a bigger set than just.
It's not just going to be 4 songs.
No, it's not
Right.
going to be the same 4 songs. In
And
fact,
you know some other songs.
And in fact, I don't want to just sing those 4 songs. Like
Right.
I'd like to have some fun with, and
Yeah.
you know, it will be fun. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
but I mean, do something different
Right.
that I never got to do.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so we're going to have a full. It's going to be a full set.
Okay.
Nice.
And
Very cool.
and I don't want to, you know. Well, first of all, I'm not sure that it's gelled yet, but I don't want to give up anything.
Practice is tomorrow, right? So-
We are having our first practice
In 30
in
years?
30 freaking years
Amazing.
tomorrow. You know, and we're all middle-aged guys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, with families and you know, so it's a very different kind of a dynamic than it was.
Yeah.
But not. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. We're getting together.
You'll get in
and
the same
we're
room and
gonna-
it'll be
and
as
same
if it
stuff.
wasn't 30 years ago.
That's
Yeah.
kind of
really-
rad.
yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
rad. Andrew, pause. All right, bathroom breaks are over, guys.
Yes.
Alone Crowd, 4 songs. You guys are going to play them 2-3 times on set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different orders and sort
Yeah,
of
yeah,
we'll
we're
play the
gonna-
B-side first now.
This one we're going to do in Spanish now. So. The song, Who You Know.
Okay.
I think over the years, some people have misinterpreted it. And there's
Okay.
people who've looked at it and thought it sounds kind of misogynistic.
Okay.
Having now talked to you for a couple hours, that doesn't seem like what you intended, or what it was supposed to be about. What you know, when you wrote that song, what were your thoughts behind it? Like,
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, when you write this stuff down, you hope it speaks for itself, but
Yes.
sometimes I guess it doesn't.
right?
That song was about us, like 1 or 2 people.
Specific people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was addressing something that just really irked me.
Yep.
And these people happen to be female.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't know if people think that was supposed to be some kind of blanket statement about, you know, all women in
involved in
hardcore or
hardcore, yeah,
something,
yeah.
you know, because it was not.
Yeah.
And, you know, if anyone wants to, you know, ask if I'm a chauvinist or not, they can talk to my wife and 2 daughters if
Yeah.
they, you know, if they want to.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But no, so that song was really about, there were a few folks who kind of glommed on to certain bands, and they were always in the van, and they were always getting in free to the shows,
Yeah.
and then they were always on stage.
Yeah.
They were photographed probably more on like record covers and stuff than I was.
Sure.
Right, sure.
And they contributed literally nothing.
Right.
And what they did do though was kind of lord around that I'm with the band and I know the band and
right.
I, you know.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm only talking about a handful
yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you know, when you talk about 1988,
Yeah.
you know, I think there's some revisionist history going on, you know, that there were women in the scene contributing, participating.
Absolutely, right.
You know, you had BJ Pappas was taking pictures I mean, she's like, her hardcore photos are like...
Legend. Yeah.
They're in art galleries at this point. You know what I mean?
You had, there was another photographer, I can't remember her name now.
No.
You had Alexa Poley, who would like go off in the pit with
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yep.
You know,
Right,
she
right.
was dancing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll tell you, those kinds of you know, of people that I'm singing about in that song, the other women in the hardcore scene didn't like them either.
Right. And
I
so it
mean,
was sort of like there was a polarity there. You know, like there's people who were involved
what are you doing here?
Yeah.
That's you know, what are you doing here?
Right.
And it's not to be like elitist. It's not,
No.
you know,
No.
well, at least buy a ticket.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
I mean, I don't care if you come to see my show. That's
Right.
fine. But it's like, why are you on stage with
right.
me? Why are you here?
Yeah, no.
It's a weird thing, and I'm glad you answered the question. You
Yeah.
know, because it's like it's such a kind of small world, and it's so passionate, but it only survives if the people who are involved in it are active participants. And that doesn't mean that everybody has to do a band, and it doesn't mean that everyone has to make a zine. It doesn't mean that everyone has to do. But what is it? Maybe you buy the ticket to the show. Maybe you buy a shirt. But you're contributing something.
like everyone's
and
a
it's-
spoke in the wheel.
Right. And so that's kind of something we talk about is the idea that like you don't have to be Rabies and you don't have to be Ray Capo. You can engage with hardcore however it is that you want, but realize that it's a living, breathing thing by you making it a living, breathing thing, by being involved and being a part of it. I almost don't see why someone would want to be involved if they weren't active. You know what I mean? If they weren't participating in it.
Well, yeah. I mean, and like you said, I'm not saying that you have to kind of, you know, go overboard and
Right.
you know,
Be in every show and be in yeah.
But they were at every show.
They
That's
were
what
anyway.
I'm
Right. Well,
saying.
Yeah. But for no other reason but to,
You know,
to be seen.
and I'm like, what? You know, like,
Why?
you know, and they're not into the music.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
it was just sort of like, I don't know. It
Right.
was it irked me a lot. So, so that's what that song is about.
Cool.
And to the extent that anyone construes it to think that I'm talking about an entire gender, is completely missing the point. It's
Yeah.
not in the words of the song at all.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also probably being viewed, you know, in a different light. I mean, I was a 17-year-old kid, and this
Right.
is no excuse, but I was a 17-year-old kid in 1988,
Yeah.
or
Sure.
or whatever.
No, it's a different time period too. You know,
you know, but that doesn't, you know, I mean, that doesn't
not excusing it.
It doesn't excuse misogynistic behavior that may have been going on there,
Correct,
but that song was not about that.
Right.
I mean, that's
yeah,
it-
Just speaking plainly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, it comes to mind, and I'm thinking it's a Rollins band song.
Trying to think.
And what's the line? Okay, the line is, "I'm just one man. I'm not all men. I'm just one man, and I'm not that man."
Yeah.
And that always resonated with me because people say, "Oh, this is a song about everybody," and you're speaking
Right, a
for
group.
all men
Right,
when
yeah.
you're doing it. Well, no.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
And you're not that man, meaning you're not that 17-year-old
right,
kid.
Right. Well,
Right.
and I'm also
Right.
not that man who
Who
is
is
a
that
misogynist.
misogynist.
Yeah.
Whether it was 1988 or 2018.
Sure,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
I mean, you know, the other thing I'm going to say too is that I just don't remember a whole lot of girls coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I want to start a band."
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
I mean, back then, who?
but the point is,
Right.
it's not like I would have discouraged that.
Right.
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 You know, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just that's a weird question. I mean,
It's-
you
no,
know
I
what
know.
you're asking me because, you know, who did we have in New York? Nausea?
Yeah.
Who else?
Right. Amy and who?
Yeah.
Amy and Neil, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neil?
But like the yeah.
And she didn't even front the band by herself, right?
Right. Right. I mean,
You
think
know,
about
I mean,
who else is? I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
and you know, the reason I even ask is that I think a lot of times people take something that someone says and it gets twisted and history gets rewritten. And
as a lawyer, I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
right. See, exactly. And that things get, through the course of time, perception gets skewed, or an audience, it falls on a different set of ears. The easiest go-to is the Minor Threat song, Guilty of Being White.
right.
That's a pretty, that could be taken as a pretty ugly song if you just
100%.
take it out of context. And the problem is there are people who have intentionally taken it out of context or people who have unintentionally done so. And that's kind of, you can't control. Nobody's saying Ian is controlling the idiot who's taking what he's saying there, or, you know, Black Flag, White Minority, or these songs like, you can take things out of context and make them mean what you want them to mean for whatever you're trying to position.
Well, yeah, but you know what? That's with everything. It's
Exactly.
kind of the state of this nation right now.
Right.
And I'm not going to go down that road
Yes.
at all.
Yeah, we'll hold off
At
from that
all.
rabbit hole.
But I am going to say this. You put out music, you put out your words.
Yeah.
People have every right to construe them however they want. They may be wrong,
Yes.
but go ahead. Have your opinion. Don't listen to the song. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, or write your own song.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
you know,
yeah.
I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
But I know what I wrote it about,
Yeah.
and that's it.
That's all
right.
you can really.
And that's it.
yeah.
It wasn't meant to be some freaking anthem for everybody to.
Right, that's-
anti-female anthem.
Right.
or
Yeah,
shit.
that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Thank you. So, with this otherwise, are there any other lyrics to Alone in a Crowd stuff that, when you think back to them, they still like ring true or they hit you in a certain way?
God, I'm actually blanking on all 4 songs right now. No, I think, like I said before, I think, you know, this band has much more of me in it.
Yes, that's
So do those songs resonate with me like more than, for instance, a lot of the side by side stuff?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
So you have,
Okay, well, here's the thing. You know, I'm basically a 50-year-old
Yeah, that's
man
hard, yeah.
with 2 adult children and a teenager.
yes.
I really have no idea what my family's going to think of me singing "When Tigers Fight." You know,
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a nuts thing for a
Right.
a middle-aged man to be singing. You know, so in terms of lyrics, does that resonate with me? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I meant, you know,
You meant it when you said it,
kinda,
right.
I kind of had an idea of what that song was about
yeah.
back then.
yeah.
But you know, but the other stuff I stand by pretty, you know, and listen, Who You Know is an angry song. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an angry song.
Definitely.
It's not a positive song. It's
No.
an angry song.
Right.
Yeah.
So those 2 were like the negative songs,
Yep.
right?
Right.
But then the positive songs, like "Is
Commitment.
Anybody There" and "Commitment," are do those resonate more with me?
Yeah.
Positive
Because I still believe that stuff.
I agree.
Right.
You know, it's not, but you know, okay, it wasn't that. Those are not complicated concepts either. So you know, they should resonate because they're
Right.
simple.
Yes.
Right.
You know, being committed. You know, and not just freaking giving up on stuff, right? You know, is anybody there? It's like, you know, am I the only person that
Who's
thinks
seeing
this
this,
way?
right.
Yeah, or who feels
Somebody,
this way,
you know,
yeah.
Right.
what the heck? You
Right.
know, everyone feels that way.
Yes.
Right. Right.
So yeah, so I mean, you have your positive and negative going on
Right.
there. The truth of the matter is that "When Tigers Fight" is the only song that I completely wrote. So
Yeah.
that's the music and the lyrics.
Wow.
You wrote the
okay.
music for that.
I
I,
did.
didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
I did. It's a very,
Yeah.
very simple song. But that was actually what was fun about
Yeah.
that song.
Right.
And Carl, I mean, you know, was just like, man, that song's like all energy. It's like, it's so simple, so primal, so
Right.
you know, that's what resonates with me. Actually, it's not the lyric content so much.
Right. It's just like.
And that's what hardcore is.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the lyrics matter to people, but
Right.
but it's like when you feel the gusto behind it. You know what I mean?
Right. You know, and you know, I really hope, God, you know, now you got my brain spinning on you know, what other stuff are people misconstruing?
No.
I
You
would
know,
have not-
because
yeah.
you know, "When Tigers Fight," you know, was really about, you know, when you're the kid that's picked on.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's kind of like asking a what if. What if that kid just finally like said
Turn
Yeah.
around.
enough,
Right.
and now
Yeah.
I'm going to put like literally everything on the line, and
Come at
let's
you.
see what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that was about.
Sure.
It wasn't about like wanting
Did
to
that
go pick
did,
fights.
did you come? Did you feel that? Is that kind of your perspective coming from?
Like personally?
Yeah.
No.
No.
It was from watching other people.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll tell you, one of the inspirations was Alex Brown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I don't know, have you guys met him?
No.
Okay, you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a tall, skinny. He's a skinny dude,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Me.
GB. Right.
Yeah, guitar-
Yeah. He's a skinny dude.
Yeah.
Right. He's
And
like an artistic
He's
guy.
artistic.
Right.
He's educated. Like he went
Yeah.
to Parsons or something.
Yes.
No, is it Parsons?
I thought so.
Some art
Some art
school
school.
in New York.
Right.
Anyway, and very quiet. I mean, he was a pretty shy guy.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if he's still that way, but
Right.
but
I still think, yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
but we played. It may have even been the last side by side show at the Anthrax, and that show was utter pandemonium. I mean, that was a great hardcore show.
Yeah.
There was a point where we lost everything but vocals and drums.
Wow. Right.
And then there was also a part where the mic, actually it was the base of the mic where the cord plugged
Yeah.
in. That bass ripped off. It wasn't
Yeah.
like the cord just pulled out, like
The
the
entire
the
thing.
whole
Oh, wow.
housing and everything
Sure.
came
Yeah.
off of it. And I threw the mic out into the crowd.
Right.
Like I just, you know,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like useless.
Yeah.
and on the video you can hear the sound man like flip out,
Right, like, I can fix that.
no, he
No.
was like, he just threw the mic,
he's like,
you know,
right,
like,
right,
he's like,
man.
what the hell is going on? I may have clocked somebody too. I
Right,
don't,
sure,
you know, I don't
right.
know. It probably was not a
Projectile,
good,
right.
smart move. But we did. I forget what song it was, but we did it without a mic, and
That's
everyone
right.
started singing, and
that's
it was
awesome.
that
Yeah.
was a great show. But I mean, we were getting chords unplugged, and it was
Right,
just
right.
pandemonium. And Alex was getting pissed. He'd
Yeah.
get unplugged, he'd plug it back in. Then some kid was doing a stage dive and grabbed Alex, and he grabbed the guitar strap,
Oh.
and so he's dragging Alex down with him.
Yeah.
And I see Alec and his teeth gnashing
Right.
like this, and he just starts going, bam, bam. He
Right.
starts punching this guy out, like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know,
Completely out of character for him, it sounds.
completely,
Right.
completely. And that was one of the images
In your
You
head,
know, it's
yeah.
like
Wow.
the quiet
Right.
guy
That's
just saying
I've had
enough.
Yep.
Right. Right.
So
See,
anyway.
I think that frames it in such a different way.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's been misconstrued.
No.
You know what I mean? But I think that's why these kind of things. So this is the beauty of podcasts, is to get to hear the nuance, and we get away with talking about a lot of crazy stuff on here because people get to hear the nuance and the tone of our voice and hear that, like, yeah, we're not fucking dickheads. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I mean, look, would I necessarily encourage people to, you know,
if someone grabs you with a guitar,
Yeah.
maybe don't punch them. But
you know, there was a lot of violence followed in the, you know, when the scene as I knew it kind of dissolved.
yeah,
Right.
There was a lot of violence after that, and
Right.
and that was another reason that I started. I was just like, I'm out.
Right.
You know.
You don't seem like a violent dude. Right? you
No,
know?
I mean, I just talked to my wife. You know, she says I have anger issues, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, I mean, the fist is not my first.
Yeah.
It's not my go-to.
Right. Well, good.
You know, and now is, you know, now I mean, but you know, but you still have those thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, you still,
Right.
You know,
Of
and,
course.
And apparently, other people have those thoughts.
100%,
You know?
yeah.
So.
I mean, something drew you to that music all those years ago. That doesn't go away necessarily.
Right.
You know
well,
what I mean?
And I would tell you that there's been a period of my life where I haven't been terribly angry, but these last couple years,
It's
I found it again.
Yeah.
got it.
So
All
Hear
right.
that, hear that. So, you know, I think
I
we're
think
on
that will help with the
Yes,
show in
propel a
February.
little bit. All
100%.
right, I like to hear that. When you've gone back and think about hardcore music, what is the stuff that you would say, like, man, this is what it is? You know, you were saying you thought of the Warzone Street Kids demo and how much that was important, and you want people to go check that out. What is the stuff? You know, I'm not telling you like, oh, I listen to this every day or every week or every month, but
that's
like, what's the
hard.
good stuff? Like, what would you say?
That's really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And part of that is that there's just so many damn bands.
Yes.
Right.
And
that's true.
and if you were to add the 30 years, I mean,
It's incredible.
Well, yeah, and don't worry
No,
about
I
that.
get it. Back in the day.
right.
Well,
Like, would like the abused be something you'd point out, or would it be?
no, but you know, no, they were good. They weren't like an influence so much.
Right.
So my whole musical progression,
Right.
you know, I learned about, you know, the sort of more established bands first, like I was saying before, MDC, you know, Black Flag.
Right.
It's the same progression that
Everyone.
like most everybody's had. You know,
Right,
you
right.
get
Whether
exposed,
you were there for it or you were after
right,
the fact.
you get
Right.
exposed to it, kind of, you know, and then what happened is that those bands were all kind of not. I didn't really connect with them. You
Yeah.
know, like hyper political MDC. Black Flag was already starting to do some
Weird
kind of
kinda-
weirder
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the other bands. Well, Sam Hain. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's like, I mean, it's
It's the
Sam Hain.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Here, good, real quick, so you can think about this. I was told a very cool Danzig story by our buddy Riley from the band Power
Power Trip. Okay.
Friend of the dude who's been on the show before, just finished a tour with Danzig. And these are big tours. Danzig's still playing big rooms,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So they had a, long story short, all they had on their rider was like, I don't know, a veggie tray and bananas or something like that. Like just that. And apparently, the tour manager comes to them and is like, hey, you know, Danzig was looking at this and he said, this can't be right. Like, this, you guys, this is nothing. Like, this is a big tour. The band, you should get more than this. Because he goes and does the grocery shopping for every
Danzig
band.
buys the rider.
Danzig himself goes to the grocery stores and buys the riders for the whole band
That is
today.
incredible.
And people were like, "What?" And he looked at it and saw it and was like, "This can't be right."
Like the shopping list is not
No,
complete.
this is go find out what they want so I can go buy it. And he goes and does that every day. That's
That is
wild,
amazing.
right?
with
That's
the, with
amazing.
the, with the, you know,
The devil.
well, Danzig story.
Yeah.
So while Alone in the Crowd is practicing,
Right.
Danzig is just starting.
Right.
Yeah.
1986, 87. Right.
And I want to say it was City Gardens, but I
Yeah.
can't remember. But it was like his first show, or first show in Jersey, or something.
Right.
Something
Right.
big.
It
Right.
was very early on.
Right.
And you know, honestly, I mean, I know you guys know City Garden, and I, you know,
Yeah.
Sure,
I
sure,
mean,
sure.
whatever. My memory of it was that it felt very small, actually, and it was kind of this intimate, you know, setting.
Yeah.
And he did new stuff, but he did a lot of Misfit stuff. It was so much freaking fun to
Yeah.
go to that show.
Wow. Right. Right.
You know, and I think Bill Wilson
Yeah.
went with us. I think
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
he was like, I'm going to go see Danzig. I was like, I'm coming too. You know, I'm going with you, Bill.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember if we all went.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Because
But
that's
that
a trip.
was-
That's a trek down to Trenton.
Yeah, that was
That's rad.
that was so much fun, because after that, then that became a radio band. You know,
Yeah,
like
Mother.
Mother.
It's a single,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it was so much fun to see it
That's
right
so
at the
cool.
beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so what then happened is, again, right track in.
Yeah.
Now I was like, screw Black Flag, screw
Yeah.
these old guys.
Right.
I want to do what these guys are doing. And
I've
so
got this.
So
Yeah.
literally, I didn't want to hear from nothing else. I just wanted to hear the New York hardcore bands that
Right.
were playing out at that time.
Yeah.
So that's all I was doing.
Yeah.
Youth Today, Warzone, Sick of It All, Token Entry, you know, and
Sure.
on and on and on and on.
Right.
But it was like working with Alex, who was a record collector,
Yeah.
and like knew everything about everything, you know, and started learning from these guys about what their influences were. That I started looking
Backwards. Sure.
and it was
Okay.
back to bands that weren't those Black Flags,
Right. Or
and-
SSD or DYS even.
well,
like, or.
Maybe
well,
they're
yeah,
part of
no,
that,
the
yeah.
SSD and DYS were a part of that.
Yeah.
But so to tell you that the four bands that I was listening to when putting Alone in a Crowd together were this: Last Rites, Negative Approach, Antidote, and Dag Nasty.
Wow.
Really? Yeah.
So
Right.
I was trying to thread those four
Four
sounds
together.
together. I don't know how well we did, but that
Yeah.
was sort of what I was listening to and was
right.
trying to kind of, I don't know, channel, emulate, whatever you want to call it. And then what I would do is say and then thread judge across that. Right.
Right,
That
right,
was
right,
kind
right.
of that was kind of what I was about at that time.
Right.
No, none of that's surprising now. What surprised me is I find out that bands that I never got to see, like Antidote and Negative Approach, are all playing out now.
Oh, all the time.
right.
Yeah.
Negative Approach is pretty good stuff.
That's what
fantastic.
I hear.
John Brennan
That's
looks like a
what-
maniac.
Yeah.
That's
full
what
on
I
maniac.
hear.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
Like
but-
going out and smoking young bands, like bands who are 20-year-olds
Right.
go out and
Or embarrassed to go on
Yeah,
after
it's
him.
Well,
wild.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I mean, so that's another shocker is that 30 years later I can see the band that I never
Got to see
would
Ben.
ever get to see.
Yeah.
Right?
Dag Nasty playing shows.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Dave Smalley
Right,
with
with,
Sean
with
Brown.
Sean Brown,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they just came back from Europe. They just did 10 days in
Oh my
Europe.
God,
they play all the time.
That's just so weird.
yeah.
it's a very surreal thing. I
Right.
don't know. Even when I was younger, and these
Because
were bands-
Dag Nasty had. No, they were still playing at the time of Alone in a Crowd, right?
Yeah, that sounds about
But
right.
they broke up
87,
but they
88.
very
were doing,
soon
they were
after
doing
that.
stuff like Big. They had done Field Day, and they were kind
Right,
of going
they
for
were
like
going-
an indie.
Oh, I remember
Major label
that.
stuff.
That's
kinda,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
And so that's the thing that's sort of a
What
trip.
Rig Out was like their last kind of
Hardcore, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry,
someone
I haven't
who's-
thought about this stuff in
No,
a really
I know,
long time.
no, of
I
course.
forgot about Field Day. That was like a memory.
Yeah.
You just triggered a brain cell. You know, it's like, oh yeah, that record.
his face was good, and I actually like that. But that's the thing.
At
the
the
reaction
time was
for
probably
people.
like, what the F? Yeah.
Yeah, everybody I know.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm a bit younger, and all that stuff was just like those were bands from the '80s. But that's the canon. That's the stuff I grew up on and listened to. You know.
Well, okay, I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
I am completely uncomfortable with the following words in this conversation: legend, canon, luminary. We were a bunch of freaking kids that
I
played
know.
dives like Seabees.
Well, so
that's all it was.
I know, and that's the part though. Is that's the like funny like there's almost a built-in like knee-jerk. It's good that that's your reaction. It would be whack. It'd be really lame if you're like, yeah,
Yeah, you're damn
Yeah.
right. I'm a luminary.
You're right.
Yeah.
We are pretty legendary. It's more human, and that's why I'm excited. After our phone call, I was like, this is going to be really
Awesome.
cool
Yeah.
because you have a realistic perspective on it. And I think, will you be shocked if I tell you there's people who are in your spot who are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. We are legends, and that's the part that I think there's a disconnect from what hardcore should be and what it becomes at that point.
And that's something I'll tell you. I am not touching what hardcore should be.
Yes.
Because this is my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
Is that hardcore is whatever the hardcore kids are doing right now. That's
Yes.
what hardcore is.
Right.
Yes.
A 50-year-old man is not going to dictate to anybody what hardcore is supposed
Correct.
Right.
to be. And
I don't think a 36-year-old man should be dictating
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like it's what, and it's even people who stayed involved and stay interested and stay active. Like the people here, man, it belongs to that 20-year-old who's out there fierce, going crazy, and is like, this is, do it. Like that's great.
Yeah, what's that? That Mike Watt record. It's a wrestling move. Ball hog or tugboat.
Yes.
Did you ever hear
Yes.
that record?
Yes.
Where Eddie Vedder says
Sings.
that the kids of today should defend themselves against the 70s.
Yes.
Because it
Yeah.
won't work for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And
not
same-
reality. It's
Right.
someone else's sentimentality.
Yeah.
Same
That's
idea.
exactly what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Is that they shouldn't be doing what we were doing. They
Yes.
should be doing their own damn thing.
Right.
That's right.
And to be honest, I don't have enough reference of what's going on now to even know. I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
But that's fine. Like it's better to be there than to be fronting about it or like putting on airs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, It would be very strange. It is very strange to me to think that this musical genre in one form or another is still actually happening.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. Disco,
Done.
gone.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the.
I mean-
but that's the part to me. I think the people who are in the first wave of hardcore bands,
Which
the
we're
dudes
calling what?
like Black Flag,
Yeah.
Negative Approach.
Teen Idols.
We'll include Minor Threat because it's the same group of guys,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like the Black Flag and Dead Kennedys, they're kind of like the Dinosaurs, or like Pre-Man, and then you get the Negative Approach.
It's just Pre-Man.
Dinosaurs, Pre-Man. You get Negative Approach, and the Midwest bands like Necros or something. Minor Threat, SOA, the DC bands, and then the Boston bands. And that's like the first wave. Those bands evolve. And then they're doing Embrace, and they're doing Laughing Hyena.
Yeah.
The guys from Boston, SSD and DOS, are doing rock records.
Right.
The dudes from Western Mass who were in some bands, they're doing like Dinosaur Jr. The guys in DC Embrace and stuff turns into Fugazi and all that stuff. It's the second wave then looks back and goes, no, that's not hardcore. This is hardcore. Guys like Youth of Today, bands like, and that's where hardcore became a genre piece, basically, and saying like, which it is and it isn't, because what the fuck is Fugazi?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I mean,
they're and that's the thing, is that I think other than that first generation, we're looking at iterations of it being somewhat like, oh, we're referencing it, and that's why it's different than something like disco, and why it's kind of interesting, and it should be weird, but like, it should be weird to everyone. It's probably weird to the dudes who are there going like, side by side, you think, what's this sound like? You know what I mean? Like, and that it just has continued, and I think that it's kind of been like that every generation. And I think it's almost like when the AI becomes self-aware, is that at some point in the 90s, hardcore went, oh, okay, so we all get this. And it's almost a constant struggle between what it can mean in the moment, between people who are like this community, being a part of something, being a part of an alternative, or what you would hope is an alternative to whatever the fuck else is going on out there, versus it just being Civil War reenactments and cosplay. And that's the thing. It's always this push-pull, because if it gets, and we said it on the last episode that came out, the worst and best thing about hardcore is it's self-referencing and being like, yeah, like you said it, like, how many people have heard The Last Ride 7 Inch? How many people have heard Negative Approach? How many people have heard Dagnast? You know what I mean? Like, Antidote. That's a small group, but that was the book you used to write your book, Right. So it's the best thing, because then you're using this really tight seed to start something, and it can be really interesting, and you took something and just made your own twist, or you're too referential and it just feels like you're playing a song backwards, so it should feel weird.
Well, yeah. To me, and this is not, listen, this should not be taken the wrong way,
Yes.
but to me, the one thing about hardcore is the youth. I mean, and I'm not talking youth crew. I'm talking,
right.
It really has to be kids. I mean, I'm sorry. I pay my taxes and I get my lawn mowed, and I'm feeding my family. That's what I'm doing now.
Yes.
There needs to be some angry upstart kid that says, you know what? This world that, and by the way, I apologize to everyone, because clearly my generation has not done any better than the previous ones. Right. It is a mess right now. So if there's ever a time for hardcore kids to stand up,
right,
it's now.
Yeah.
Right. This is the first time since the Reagan years, probably, that really has like a.
Well, let me just tell you something. That was quaint.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was quaint
compared to what's going on now.
Absolutely. So I'm talking globally. I'm telling you, there's a paradigm shift.
Yes.
And it's going to hit, and it's going to be really something else.
Yeah. Right.
So if there's ever a time for the hardcore spirit in the youth to be on the rise, it's right now.
Yeah.
God, that's like the perfect ending.
I know. Is there anything else we'll talk about?
Oh my God. No, just come to the show. February 16th, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. It's going to be a one-time only.
One time only. We're going to have like collectible stuff there that you can only get at that show.
let's do this. Brian Simmons,
Yeah, Brian.
big
Wonderful
help,
guy.
right?
Yeah, huge help. Listen, okay. So we talked about like folks that have been playing out for 30
Yeah.
years. Okay, well, Brian has been behind the scenes for 30 years.
Right.
Yes, he has.
He was the guy who put out the Alone in a Crowd 7-inch again.
Records.
Flux Records from Rhode Island of all places. He's probably best known for Verbal Assault, putting
Yep.
out Verbal Assault stuff.
Absolutely.
Again, went with him because it was outside. So here you have, I was trying to get Philadelphia, I was trying to get New England, I was
Yeah.
trying to do,
Something different.
Something different. And he put that record out, and it was this crappy, thing. Sorry, Brian. It was this crappy thing with weird graphics and the band really wasn't playing out anymore.
yeah.
Right.
So I don't know how many we even sold.
So the record came out after the last show.
Yeah.
I never-
It
Like
wasn't
in
available
the
for show,
following
Right.
year.
Right. Oh wow. Right.
couple thousand.
Is that how many?
Yeah. I think. I mean,
What are
eight-
they worth now?
up and down?
Up and down.
Up and
huh?
down. It's worth something though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, so Brian is the only he's the one that got it online. He's the one that repressed
Pressed
the
it.
record with the cover song on it.
Yeah.
And he's been promoting. He travels with new bands now. He's like their road manager.
Yep.
And he has a working farm.
No.
Right. Which is
So he
amazing.
leaves
Right.
the farm.
To go out for a weekend. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever worked on a farm, but it's
No.
not something you can usually
We need
take
a-
a couple of weeks
Right,
off.
I think we need to talk to him about that specifically. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on in the farm when you're not
Brian,
there?
listen, Brian. Again, I keep talking about if this person wasn't here,
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
here. It's with Brian.
Yeah.
No one would have heard. No one would have heard that record
Right. Without him.
without him.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, he has been my consigliere
yeah.
on this thing because he has a lot of knowledge. Also, Joe
great.
McKay in Philadelphia
Right.
is putting this show together. And between the two of those guys, I mean, Joe knows how to set up a show. I mean, the guy,
Right.
But in terms of having a finger on the pulse of like kind of
Everything
what
else.
needs to be done here,
Yeah.
Brian's been indispensable.
Sure.
So because here's the thing, the band. I mean, we all have like jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, of
so to have allies is like a huge,
That's right.
huge deal.
So thank you guys. Shout out to everybody. Big shout out to Brian who specifically made all this happen. Thanks to
Yes.
Joe who's putting on the show. Yeah. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us.
Thank you so much. It was.
Well,
it was
thank
awesome.
you for coming out here.
Awesome.
And we'll have a part 2 with some
we're-
other members of Alone in the,
Yeah,
Alone in the
that's
Crowd,
right.
right? And
We're gonna go check out the Rat's Nest.
Yeah.
Hell
oh
yeah.
yeah. You'll be very impressed, I'm sure.
Thank you everybody for listening,
Thanks,
and
Andrew.
see you in February.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Andrew.
Bye.